Imagine reaching the end of your life and realizing that the days you worried the most were the days you truly lived the least. Many people move through life as if time is unlimited. They delay happiness, postpone dreams, and wait for the right moment to begin living fully. But the truth is simple and powerful. Time is the one thing you cannot earn back once it is gone. According to the wisdom of Gautama Buddha, the secret to a meaningful life is not about having more years, but about awakening to the value of the moments you already have. When you understand this deeply, something begins to change inside you. Your attention becomes sharper, your priorities become clearer, and your life begins to feel richer, even if nothing around you has changed. In this video, you will discover powerful Buddhist lessons that reveal the secret to living fully before time quietly slips away. 1. Wake up to the value of the present moment. Most people live as if life will begin sometime in the future. They believe happiness will come once they achieve something, once they fix something, or once life becomes easier. But the Buddha taught a profound truth. The only moment that truly exists is the present one. The past has already disappeared, and the future has not yet arrived. When you constantly think about yesterday's mistakes or tomorrow's worries, you slowly lose the only moment that actually belongs to you. Life does not happen in the future, it happens now. Living fully begins with awareness. When you truly pay attention to the moment you are in, ordinary experiences suddenly become meaningful. A quiet walk, a conversation, a sunrise, or even a deep breath can feel alive and significant. The present moment is where life unfolds, and when you learn to live inside it, time no longer feels like something slipping away from you. Instead, it becomes something you are finally experiencing. 2. Stop postponing your life. Many people quietly fall into the habit of postponing their own lives. They tell themselves that one day they will finally start living the way they truly want. They say they will travel when they have more money, express love when the timing feels right, forgive someone when the pain fades, or pursue their dreams when life becomes less complicated. The problem is that this later moment often never arrives. Life keeps moving, responsibilities grow, and the opportunity they were waiting for slowly slips away. In this way, people can spend years preparing to live without actually living. The wisdom of Gautama Buddha reminds us that attachment to the future can quietly create suffering. When the mind constantly says, "I will be happy when this happens," or "I will start living after this problem is solved," it creates a life that always feels incomplete. Instead of experiencing the moment we are in, we keep chasing a future that always stays one step ahead of us. While we wait for life to begin, time continues to pass. Living fully means realizing that life is not something that begins someday in the future. It is happening right now, in this very moment. The dream you keep delaying, the kind words you hold back, or the small action you hesitate to take today may never appear again in exactly the same way. Moments are temporary, and once they pass, they become memories. 3. Let go of what steals your time. Many people believe the secret to a better life is adding more things to it. They try to add more achievements, more possessions, more experiences, and more responsibilities. But in reality, one of the biggest reasons people feel overwhelmed and exhausted is because their lives are already filled with things that quietly drain their time and energy. Small distractions slowly accumulate. Endless arguments, unnecessary worries, toxic relationships, and constant comparisons with others can consume large parts of a person's life without them even realizing it. Hours are spent thinking about what someone said, replaying past conflicts, or stressing about problems that may never even happen. Over time, these mental habits steal attention from the moments that truly matter. The teachings of Gautama Buddha emphasize that attachment is one of the main causes of suffering. When people hold tightly to anger, resentment, or the need to prove themselves to others, they unknowingly give away valuable time and peace of mind. These emotional burdens become like invisible weight that follows them everywhere. Letting go does not mean ignoring life or avoiding responsibility. It simply means recognizing what truly deserves your energy and what does not. When you release unnecessary worries, arguments, and expectations, your mind becomes clearer and calmer. You begin to see that many of the things that once felt so important were never truly worth the time they consumed. Living fully is not about filling every moment with more activity. Sometimes it is about clearing space in your life so that the moments that truly matter can finally breathe. 4. Accept that life is impermanent. One of the most important truths taught in Buddhism is that everything in life is temporary. Nothing stays exactly the same forever. People change, circumstances change, emotions change, and even the strongest moments in life eventually pass. This idea is known in Buddhism as impermanence, and understanding it deeply can completely transform the way a person experiences life. Many people suffer because they unconsciously expect life to remain stable and predictable. They become attached to certain moments, certain relationships, or certain versions of themselves, and hope that these things will last forever. When change eventually happens, it feels painful and unfair, because the mind was trying to hold on to something that was never meant to stay the same. This is why people often struggle when they lose opportunities, when relationships end, or when life suddenly shifts in a direction they did not expect. The wisdom of Gautama Buddha teaches that change is not a mistake in life. It is the natural flow of life itself. Everything that exists is part of a continuous movement. The seasons change, the day becomes night, youth slowly turns into age, and experiences constantly rise and fade like waves in the ocean. When we resist this truth and try to freeze life in one perfect moment, we create frustration and sadness for ourselves. However, when a person truly accepts impermanence, something powerful begins to happen. Instead of fearing change, they begin to understand it. Instead of clinging tightly to every experience, they learn to appreciate it while it is present. A conversation with a loved one becomes more meaningful because they realize that moments like this will not last forever. A quiet evening feels more valuable because they understand that time is always moving forward. Impermanence also teaches an important lesson about difficult experiences. Painful situations, stress, disappointment, and hardship may feel overwhelming in the moment, but they are also temporary. Just as joyful moments eventually pass, difficult moments pass as well. Understanding this truth helps people remain calm during challenges because they know that no situation lasts forever. When you truly understand impermanence, your relationship with time changes. You stop assuming that life will always give you another chance to say something meaningful, to follow a dream, or to appreciate the people around you. Instead of taking moments for granted, you begin to experience them more deeply. Life becomes richer, not because it lasts forever, but because you finally understand that it does not. 5. Invest your time in what truly matters. One of the greatest mistakes people make in life is assuming that all time is equal. In reality, time is the most valuable resource a human being possesses. Money can be earned again, opportunities can sometimes return, and mistakes can often be corrected. But time moves in only one direction. Once a moment passes, it becomes part of the past forever. Yet many people spend large portions of their lives giving their time to things that bring very little meaning or fulfillment. Modern life constantly pulls attention in different directions. Endless distractions, social media, unnecessary arguments, and the pressure to impress others can quietly consume hours and even years of a person's life. People may spend years chasing recognition, comparing themselves with others, or trying to meet expectations that were never truly important to them. At the end of it all, they may realize that much of their time was invested in things that did not truly nourish their mind or their spirit. The teachings of Gautama Buddha encourage people to become more aware of where their attention and energy are being directed. In Buddhism, attention is considered one of the most powerful forces in human life. Wherever your attention goes, your life slowly begins to follow. If your attention is constantly focused on negativity, comparison, and meaningless distractions, your life will begin to feel scattered and empty. But when your attention is directed toward growth, kindness, wisdom, and meaningful experiences, your life naturally becomes deeper and more fulfilling. Investing your time wisely does not mean you must always be busy or constantly working toward achievements. It means choosing activities and relationships that truly enrich your life. Spending time learning something valuable, improving your character, strengthening meaningful relationships, or helping others can create a sense of purpose that no material success alone can provide. It also means protecting your time from things that slowly drain your energy. Many people do not realize how much of their life disappears through unnecessary stress, constant worrying, or trying to please everyone around them. When you become aware of this, you start to understand that protecting your time is also protecting your life. Another important aspect of investing your time wisely is self-awareness. Many people move through life automatically, following routines and habits, without ever questioning whether those habits are actually serving them. But when you pause and reflect on how you spend your days, you begin to notice patterns. You begin to see which activities bring peace and meaning, and which ones only leave you feeling tired or distracted. Living fully is not about filling every hour with activity. It is about making sure that the time you do spend is connected to something meaningful. Even simple moments can become powerful when they are experienced with awareness. A quiet conversation with someone you care about, a moment of reflection, learning something new, or simply being present with your own thoughts can add depth to your life. When you begin to invest your time in what truly matters, life starts to feel different. Your days no longer feel like something you are simply trying to get through. Instead, they become moments you are consciously choosing to experience. Over time, these choices shape the direction of your life. And one day, when you look back at the years behind you, you will realize that the most meaningful parts of your life were not the moments when you had the most things, but the moments when you gave your time to what truly mattered. 6. Stop living for the approval of others. One of the quiet ways people waste their lives is by constantly shaping themselves around the expectations of others. From a very young age, many people begin to learn that approval feels good and rejection feels painful. Because of this, they slowly start adjusting their behavior in order to gain acceptance. They choose certain careers because society values them. They hide parts of their personality to avoid criticism, and they make decisions based more on what others might think than on what they truly feel inside. At first, this habit may seem harmless. Wanting to be accepted by family, friends, or society is a natural human instinct. But when a person builds their entire life around the approval of others, something deeper begins to happen. Their decisions slowly stop reflecting their true desires. Instead of asking themselves what kind of life they genuinely want, they begin asking what kind of life will look impressive or acceptable to others. Over time, this can create a quiet sense of emptiness. A person may appear successful or admired on the outside, but inside they may feel disconnected from themselves. They may follow paths that never truly belong to them, simply because those paths received praise from others. The teachings of Gautama Buddha remind us that attachment to praise and fear of criticism can easily trap the human mind. According to Buddhist wisdom, praise and blame are both temporary, Today, someone may admire you, and tomorrow the same person may criticize you. If your sense of worth constantly rises and falls based on the opinions of others, your inner peace will always remain fragile. The Buddha encouraged people to develop awareness of their own mind, instead of constantly measuring themselves through the judgments of the world. When a person becomes deeply aware of their own values, intentions, and actions, they begin to rely less on external approval. They understand that true peace does not come from impressing others, but from living in alignment with their own wisdom and integrity. One reason people seek approval so strongly is because it provides a temporary sense of security. When others validate us, it can feel as if our life choices are correct and meaningful. But the danger of relying on this validation is that it gives other people control over how we feel about ourselves. If praise makes you feel valuable, then criticism will automatically make you feel worthless. This creates an emotional roller coaster that keeps the mind constantly unstable. Living fully requires stepping away from this pattern. It requires the courage to ask honest questions about your life. Are your goals truly your own, or are they shaped by what others expect? Are you speaking your truth, or are you constantly adjusting your voice so that people will approve of you? These questions can be uncomfortable, but they are necessary for self-discovery. When a person stops living primarily for approval, they begin to experience a deeper kind of freedom. Decisions become clearer because they are guided by inner understanding instead of external pressure. Actions begin to feel more meaningful because they reflect genuine values rather than social expectations. This does not mean ignoring others or becoming selfish. Buddhist wisdom does not encourage isolation from society. Instead, it encourages balance. It teaches that you can respect others, listen to advice, and maintain healthy relationships without surrendering your entire identity to the opinions of the crowd. There will always be people who misunderstand you. There will always be people who disagree with your choices. This is simply part of human life. Trying to satisfy everyone is not only impossible, but it also distracts you from the path that truly belongs to you. When you stop seeking constant approval, something surprising begins to happen. Your mind becomes calmer. The endless pressure to prove yourself begins to fade. You no longer feel the need to explain every decision or defend every action. Instead, you move through life with a quiet sense of confidence that comes from knowing who you are. This inner confidence is very different from arrogance. It is not about believing you are better than others. It is about understanding yourself clearly enough that you do not need constant validation from the outside world. Many people reach the later years of their life and suddenly realize how much time they spent trying to satisfy expectations that never truly mattered. They realize they avoided certain dreams because they feared criticism. They held back their true voice because they worried about being judged. They lived carefully instead of living authentically. This realization can be painful, but it also carries an important lesson. Life becomes meaningful when it reflects your genuine values, not when it simply meets the expectations of others. Living fully means giving yourself permission to follow your own path with honesty and awareness. It means accepting that not everyone will understand your journey, and that is perfectly fine. Your life does not need universal approval to have meaning. The moment you stop chasing approval is often the moment you begin to discover your real freedom. Your decisions become clearer, your actions become more authentic, and your time begins to feel more valuable because it is finally aligned with who you truly are. And when your life begins to reflect your true self rather than the expectations of the crowd, every moment you live carries a deeper sense of purpose and peace. 7. Remember that every day is a precious opportunity. One of the greatest illusions the human mind creates is the belief that there will always be more time. Most people wake up each morning and move through the day automatically, as if tomorrow is guaranteed and the days ahead will continue endlessly. Because of this assumption, they postpone many of the things that truly matter. They delay expressing love, delay forgiving someone, delay pursuing meaningful dreams, and delay appreciating the life they already have. But the truth is that every day you wake up is something incredibly rare and valuable. According to the wisdom of Gautama Buddha, awareness of life's temporary nature is not meant to make a person fearful. Instead, it is meant to awaken a deeper appreciation for the time we have been given. When a person truly understands that life is uncertain and that each day could be their last opportunity to experience the world, their perspective begins to change. The small moments that once seemed ordinary suddenly become meaningful. Think about how often people rush through their days without truly noticing them. They wake up thinking about problems, spend their day worrying about the future, and fall asleep thinking about what they still need to fix tomorrow. In this constant cycle of thinking about what comes next, they overlook what is happening right now. Days pass, months pass, and sometimes even years pass in this state of distraction. But when you pause and reflect deeply, you realize something remarkable. Every day carries the possibility of something new. Every morning offers a chance to begin again, to think differently, to act differently, and to experience life with a fresh perspective. No matter what mistakes were made yesterday, the moment you open your eyes to a new day, life quietly offers you another opportunity to move forward. Many people believe that living fully requires extraordinary experiences or dramatic achievements. They imagine that a meaningful life must be filled with constant excitement, success, or adventure. But the teachings of the Buddha reveal a much simpler and deeper truth. Life becomes meaningful not because of how grand the moments are, but because of how aware you are while experiencing them. A simple conversation with someone you care about can be meaningful when you are fully present. A quiet walk can become peaceful when your mind is not distracted by endless worries. Even the act of breathing slowly and observing the world around you can remind you that you are alive in this very moment. When people lose awareness of how precious each day is, they begin to treat time carelessly. They waste hours worrying about things they cannot control. They allow anger, resentment, and unnecessary conflicts to occupy their mind. They hold on to grudges that quietly drain their emotional energy. Without realizing it, they spend large portions of their life in negative states of mind that prevent them from experiencing the beauty of the present moment. But when you truly remember that each day is a precious opportunity, your priorities begin to shift. Suddenly, many of the things that once felt urgent lose their importance. Arguments that once consumed your energy begin to feel unnecessary. The need to prove yourself to others begins to fade. Instead, your attention naturally moves toward experiences that bring genuine peace and meaning. You begin to appreciate the people around you more deeply because you realize that your time with them is not unlimited. Every conversation becomes more valuable because you understand that moments shared with others will eventually become memories. Gratitude naturally begins to grow because you recognize that even ordinary days are part of a life that will not last forever. This awareness also changes the way you approach your own potential. Many people carry dreams inside them that they keep postponing. They want to create something meaningful, learn something new, or follow a path that truly excites them. But fear and hesitation often convince them to wait. They tell themselves that they will start next year, next month, or when circumstances become easier. Remembering that every day is a precious opportunity gently challenges this mindset. It reminds you that life is not waiting for the perfect conditions to begin. The moment you are living right now is already part of your limited time on this earth. When you see this clearly, courage begins to grow inside you. You begin taking small steps toward the life you want, instead of endlessly preparing for it. Another powerful effect of this awareness is the ability to find meaning even during difficult moments. Life will never be free from challenges. Everyone experiences disappointment, loss, and uncertainty at different times. But when you remember that each day is an opportunity, you begin to approach these challenges with a different mindset. Instead of seeing them only as obstacles, you begin to see them as experiences that can teach you patience, resilience, and wisdom. Even painful moments can carry lessons that help you grow into a stronger and more compassionate person. Difficult days can remind you of what truly matters. They can reveal the strength within you that you may not have discovered otherwise. Living with this awareness does not mean constantly thinking about death or worrying about how much time remains. Instead, it means allowing the reality of life's temporary nature to guide you toward deeper appreciation. When you understand that time is precious, you naturally begin to live with greater intention. You start noticing the beauty in simple moments, the warmth of sunlight, the sound of laughter, the quiet peace of a calm evening, or the presence of someone who cares about you begins to feel more meaningful. Life no longer feels like something you must rush through in order to reach the next milestone. Instead, it becomes something you can experience one moment at a time. In this way, remembering that every day is a precious opportunity becomes a powerful transformation of perspective. Instead of seeing time as something that is slowly running out, you begin to see each day as a gift that invites you to live more consciously. You begin to speak more honestly, love more openly, and forgive more easily, because you understand that these moments are part of a life that will not last forever. The fear of wasting time slowly fades, replaced by a deeper desire to use your time wisely. And when you begin living with this awareness, something beautiful happens. Life stops feeling like a race toward an uncertain future. Instead, it becomes a series of meaningful moments that you are finally able to experience fully. Every morning becomes a quiet reminder that you are still here, still breathing, still learning, still growing. And as long as you are alive today, you still have the opportunity to live your life with awareness, gratitude, and purpose. 8. Understand that a meaningful life is built one moment at a time. Many people believe that a meaningful life is something that appears suddenly in the future. They imagine that one day everything will finally come together and they will feel satisfied, fulfilled, and proud of the life they have lived. Because of this belief, they spend years chasing big moments. They wait for a major achievement, a perfect opportunity, a large success, or some dramatic turning point that will finally make their life feel meaningful. But the deeper wisdom of Buddhism teaches something very different. A meaningful life is not created by a few extraordinary events. It is quietly built from the small moments that fill your everyday life. Most of the time, people overlook these small moments because they seem too ordinary. Waking up in the morning, having a quiet conversation, sharing a meal, helping someone, learning something new, or simply sitting in silence may not seem important when compared to the big goals people imagine. But when you observe life carefully, you begin to notice that these small experiences are actually what make up the majority of your existence. Your life is not made of a few grand highlights. It is made of thousands of ordinary moments that slowly shape who you become. The wisdom of Gautama Buddha teaches that awareness is the key to transforming these ordinary moments into meaningful ones. When a person moves through life without awareness, moments pass quickly and feel empty. Days blend into each other, and time seems to disappear without leaving much behind. But when a person learns to bring attention to the present moment, even simple experiences begin to feel alive and valuable. Imagine two people living the same day. One person wakes up, distracted, rushes through everything, constantly thinks about the past or the future, and spends the day reacting to stress and pressure. By the end of the day, they feel exhausted and unsatisfied, even though nothing particularly terrible happened. The other person lives the same day but with awareness. They notice the quiet moments, appreciate small interactions, and remain present in what they are doing. Even if their day is simple, it feels richer and more complete. The difference between these two lives is not the events that happened. The difference is awareness. Many people believe they must dramatically change their entire life in order to feel happier or more fulfilled. They imagine that meaning can only come from huge changes such as becoming extremely successful, traveling the world, or achieving something impressive. While these experiences can certainly be meaningful, they are not the only path to a fulfilling life. In reality, the deepest sense of fulfillment often comes from how you experience the moments that already exist around you. When you bring awareness into your daily life, you begin to see things differently. Conversations become more meaningful because you truly listen instead of thinking about what to say next. Time spent with loved ones becomes more valuable because you are fully present rather than distracted. Even quiet moments alone can become peaceful opportunities for reflection instead of empty spaces filled with restlessness. The Buddha often emphasized the importance of mindfulness, which means being fully aware of the present moment without constantly judging or resisting it. Mindfulness transforms ordinary activities into meaningful experiences. Walking becomes an opportunity to observe the world around you. Eating becomes a moment to appreciate nourishment. Breathing becomes a reminder that you are alive in this very moment. Without mindfulness, people often rush through life while their mind is somewhere else entirely. They perform daily tasks automatically while their thoughts are busy worrying about the future or replaying the past. Because of this constant mental noise, they rarely experience the moment they are actually living in. But when mindfulness enters your life, something begins to change. The present moment becomes clearer. Instead of constantly chasing the next thing, you begin to experience what is already happening. This simple shift in awareness can transform the entire quality of your life. Another reason people struggle to find meaning is because they believe their life must look impressive to others in order to be valuable. Society often praises visible success, such as wealth, fame, or recognition. While these things may bring temporary satisfaction, they do not automatically create inner peace or lasting fulfillment. Many people achieve everything they once believed would make them happy, yet still feel empty inside. Buddhist wisdom encourages a different way of measuring a meaningful life. Instead of asking how impressive your life appears from the outside, it asks how peaceful and compassionate your life feels from the inside. A life filled with kindness, awareness, and genuine connection often carries deeper fulfillment than a life focused entirely on external success. When you begin building your life one moment at a time, you stop waiting for some distant future to finally feel meaningful. Instead, meaning slowly grows through the way you experience everyday life. A kind action towards someone who needs help becomes part of that meaning. A moment of patience when facing difficulty becomes part of that meaning. A quiet decision to live according to your values becomes part of that meaning. Over time, these small choices accumulate. They quietly shape your character, your relationships, and your inner peace. Just like a mountain is formed from countless grains of sand, a meaningful life is formed from countless moments lived with awareness. This understanding also removes a great deal of pressure that many people place on themselves. When someone believes their life must contain dramatic achievements in order to matter, they may constantly feel as if they are falling behind or not doing enough. But when they realize that meaning is created through everyday awareness, they no longer feel the need to chase unrealistic expectations. Instead of constantly asking whether their life is impressive enough, they begin asking a much more important question. Am I living this moment with awareness, kindness, and honesty? When the answer to that question becomes yes more often, life begins to feel naturally meaningful. The beautiful truth is that every moment offers the opportunity to build a meaningful life. You do not need to wait for a perfect future or extraordinary circumstances. The moment you are experiencing right now already contains the potential for growth, connection, and peace. A meaningful life is not something you suddenly arrive at one day. It is something you gently create through the way you live each moment along the way. And when you understand this deeply, you no longer feel as though time is slipping away from you. Instead, you begin using each moment as a small but powerful step toward a life that feels truly alive. 9. Understand that peace comes from the way you see life. Many people spend their entire lives believing that peace will come from changing their external circumstances. They believe that once their problems disappear, once their finances improve, once other people begin behaving the way they want, or once life becomes easier, then they will finally feel calm and satisfied. Because of this belief, they spend years trying to control everything around them. They try to control situations, control other people's opinions, and control the future. But no matter how much effort they put into this struggle, life continues to change in unpredictable ways. The deeper wisdom of Buddhism teaches that peace does not come from controlling the world. It comes from understanding the mind that is observing the world. According to the teachings of Gautama Buddha, much of human suffering is not created by events themselves, but by the way the mind interprets those events. Two people can experience the same situation, yet their reactions can be completely different. One person may feel overwhelmed and angry, while the other remains calm and thoughtful. The difference is not the situation. The difference is how the mind chooses to see it. This realization is extremely powerful because it means that peace is not entirely dependent on what happens around you. It is deeply connected to how you understand and respond to what happens. When people believe that peace will only arrive after life becomes perfect, they place their happiness in a very fragile position. Life will always contain challenges, uncertainty, and change. If peace depends on everything going exactly the way you want, then peace will rarely stay for long. But when you begin to understand that your perspective shapes your experience, something remarkable begins to happen. You start to see that the mind itself has the ability to transform how life feels. This does not mean ignoring problems or pretending difficulties do not exist. Instead, it means learning to observe life without allowing every situation to control your inner state. For example, imagine facing criticism from someone. If the mind immediately reacts with anger, the situation becomes emotionally heavy. Thoughts begin to race, the body becomes tense, and the mind may replay the conversation repeatedly. But if the same situation is observed with awareness, it can be approached very differently. The mind can pause, examine the situation calmly, and decide whether the criticism contains something useful or whether it should simply be released. The situation itself did not change. What changed was the way the mind interpreted it. This understanding gradually frees people from the exhausting habit of reacting automatically to everything that happens around them. Many people spend their lives in constant reaction. They react to every opinion, every inconvenience, every unexpected problem. Their emotional state rises and falls depending on what happens during the day. If things go well, they feel happy, and if things go wrong, they feel frustrated or discouraged. Living in this constant cycle of reaction can make life feel unstable and exhausting. The mind never finds rest because it is always responding to the next situation. The Buddha taught that true peace begins when the mind learns to observe instead of constantly reacting. Observation creates space between an event and the emotional response that follows. In that space, awareness can grow. Instead of immediately allowing anger, fear, or frustration to take control, the mind can pause and see the situation more clearly. This pause is incredibly powerful because it breaks the automatic patterns that usually control human behavior. Instead of being carried away by every emotional impulse, you begin to choose how you respond. Over time, this ability creates a deep sense of stability inside the mind. When the mind becomes more stable, life itself begins to feel less chaotic. Challenges may still appear, but they no longer shake your inner balance as easily. Difficult conversations become opportunities for understanding instead of conflict. Unexpected problems become situations to navigate calmly rather than crises that overwhelm your emotions. Another important aspect of peace is understanding the role of expectations. Much of the frustration people experience comes from the gap between how they expect life to behave and how life actually unfolds. When reality does not match these expectations, disappointment quickly appears. For example, someone may expect others to always treat them fairly, to always understand them, or to always support their decisions. When these expectations are not met, resentment begins to grow. But when a person understands that human beings are naturally imperfect and unpredictable, their expectations become more balanced. Instead of feeling shocked by every disappointment, they approach life with greater patience and understanding. This shift in perspective reduces unnecessary suffering because it allows reality to exist without constant resistance. The Buddhist path does not promise a life without difficulty. Instead, it teaches a way of relating to life that reduces unnecessary mental suffering. By observing the mind and understanding how perceptions shape experience, a person gradually develops wisdom that brings lasting calm. Another important transformation occurs when a person stops viewing every experience as either completely good or completely bad. Life is often more complex than these simple labels suggest. Situations that appear negative at first may eventually lead to growth or valuable lessons. Experiences that seem positive may later reveal hidden challenges. When the mind becomes less attached to labeling every moment as good or bad, it becomes easier to accept life as it unfolds. Instead of constantly judging events, the mind begins to approach them with curiosity and openness. This openness creates a sense of inner flexibility that makes life easier to navigate. Just as water adapts to the shape of any container, a calm mind adapts to changing circumstances without breaking. Over time, this way of seeing life leads to a deep and quiet peace. It is not a dramatic excitement or constant happiness. Instead, it is a stable sense of balance that remains present even when life becomes complicated. This kind of peace is not dependent on external success or perfect circumstances. It grows from understanding the nature of the mind and the temporary nature of life itself. When you realize that your perspective shapes your experience, you begin to take greater responsibility for your inner world. Instead of constantly trying to control everything around you, you begin focusing on understanding your own thoughts, reactions, and perceptions. This shift is one of the most powerful transformations a person can experience. The world may continue to change, people may continue to behave unpredictably, and challenges may continue to appear. But your inner peace no longer disappears every time life becomes uncertain. Instead, you move through life with greater awareness, patience, and understanding. And when peace begins to grow from within your own mind, rather than from external circumstances, you discover a stability that cannot easily be taken away by the changing conditions of the world. 10. Realize that the way you live today is the way you shape your entire life. Many people imagine that their life will eventually become meaningful through one large decision or one dramatic moment of change. They believe that someday they will finally transform their habits, their mindset, and the direction of their life all at once. Because of this belief, they often underestimate the power of the small choices they make every single day. They think that today is just another ordinary day that does not matter very much, and they assume that the real transformation will happen later. But the deeper wisdom of Buddhism teaches something very different. According to the teachings of Gautama Buddha, life is not shaped by a few large events. It is shaped by the repeated actions, thoughts, and decisions that occur day after day. Every moment you live becomes a small part of the larger pattern that slowly forms your character, your habits, and your future. This idea may seem simple at first, but it carries enormous power when truly understood. The way you think today influences the way you will think tomorrow. The habits you repeat today slowly become the behaviors that define your life. The choices you make today quietly determine the direction your life will follow over time. Most people do not notice this process because change usually happens gradually. A single decision may not appear important in the moment. Choosing to remain calm during a difficult conversation may seem like a small act. Deciding to spend time learning something valuable instead of wasting time on distractions may feel like a minor choice. Practicing patience instead of reacting with anger may appear insignificant in the moment. But when these choices are repeated again and again, they slowly shape the person you become. The Buddha often emphasized that the mind is deeply influenced by repetition. Thoughts that are repeated frequently begin to feel natural. Actions that are practiced regularly become habits. Over time, these habits shape the way a person responds to the world. For example, if someone constantly reacts with frustration whenever life becomes difficult, their mind slowly becomes conditioned to respond with anger or stress. Eventually, this reaction becomes automatic. Even small problems can trigger strong emotional responses because the mind has been trained to react in this way. On the other hand, if someone practices patience and awareness when facing challenges, their mind gradually becomes calmer and more balanced. Difficult situations may still occur, but the person no longer feels overwhelmed by them in the same way. Their inner stability grows stronger because they have repeatedly trained their mind to respond differently. This is why the present moment carries so much importance. The way you live today is not separate from the life you will experience tomorrow. It is directly shaping it. Every day offers countless opportunities to reinforce the kind of person you want to become. Each decision, no matter how small, contributes to the direction your life is moving. When you choose kindness instead of cruelty, you strengthen compassion within yourself. When you choose discipline instead of laziness, you strengthen your ability to remain focused. When you choose awareness instead of distraction, you strengthen the clarity of your mind. Over time, these small decisions accumulate. They quietly transform your character, your habits, and your future experiences. Many people spend years hoping that their life will change without changing the patterns that create their current situation. They may wish for greater peace, deeper relationships, or a stronger sense of purpose. But if their daily habits remain the same, their life tends to remain the same as well. Buddhist wisdom encourages people to observe their daily patterns carefully. Instead of focusing only on long-term goals, it invites them to examine how they live each day. How do they treat other people? How do they respond when difficulties appear? How do they spend their time and attention? These everyday patterns are far more powerful than many people realize. Another important aspect of shaping your life is the way you treat your own mind. The mind constantly produces thoughts, emotions, and reactions. Some of these thoughts are helpful and constructive, while others create unnecessary stress or confusion. When people never observe their thoughts, they often become controlled by them without realizing it. But when a person begins practicing awareness, they start noticing these patterns more clearly. They begin to see which thoughts bring peace and which thoughts create suffering. With this awareness, They gain the ability to guide their mind in healthier directions. For example, when a negative thought appears, instead of automatically believing it, they can pause and examine it calmly. They may realize that the thought is exaggerated, unrealistic, or unnecessary. With practice, they learn to let such thoughts pass without allowing them to dominate their emotional state. This ability gradually transforms the way life feels. Situations that once created intense stress begin to feel manageable. Challenges that once seemed overwhelming begin to appear as opportunities for growth and understanding. Over time, the person becomes less reactive and more thoughtful in their responses. Their life becomes more stable because their inner world is no longer constantly controlled by passing emotions. Another powerful realization occurs when people understand that shaping their life is not about achieving perfection. Many individuals avoid making positive changes because they believe they must transform everything at once. When they fail to do this perfectly, they become discouraged and give up. But Buddhist wisdom encourages a much more compassionate approach. Instead of demanding perfection, it emphasizes steady awareness and gradual improvement. Even small steps in the right direction create meaningful progress over time. Each moment offers the opportunity to make a slightly better choice than before. One moment of patience can replace a moment of anger. One moment of honesty can replace a moment of fear. One moment of awareness can replace a moment of distraction. When these small improvements accumulate over days, months, and years, they quietly transform the entire direction of a person's life. This is why the present moment is so powerful. It is not just another moment passing by. It is the place where your future is being shaped right now. If you treat today carelessly, tomorrow will carry the results of that carelessness. But if you live today with awareness, intention, and kindness, tomorrow will begin to reflect those qualities as well. This understanding changes the way people approach life. Instead of waiting for a perfect future to finally become the person they want to be, they begin practicing those qualities in the present moment. They become patient today instead of waiting for a future version of themselves to become patient. They practice kindness today instead of hoping that kindness will appear naturally someday. Through these repeated choices, transformation gradually occurs. Eventually, the life they once imagined for the future begins to appear in the present. Peace becomes more stable, relationships become deeper, the mind becomes clearer, and when a person looks back at the years behind them, they realize that their life was not shaped by a few dramatic turning points. It was shaped by the quiet decisions they made again and again in the ordinary moments of each day. Those small moments, lived with awareness, slowly became the foundation of a life that felt meaningful, balanced, and truly alive. 11. Understand that true freedom comes when you stop fighting life. Many people spend a large portion of their lives fighting against reality. They fight against situations they cannot control, they resist changes they did not expect, and they struggle endlessly against the natural flow of life. When things do not happen the way they hoped, the mind quickly fills with frustration, anger, or disappointment. Because of this constant resistance, life often begins to feel heavy and exhausting. This struggle happens because the human mind tends to believe that happiness will only exist if life unfolds exactly according to its expectations. People imagine a very specific path their life should follow. They expect certain achievements, certain relationships, certain outcomes, and certain timelines. When reality moves in a different direction, they experience it as failure or injustice. But the deeper wisdom of Buddhism offers a powerful insight into this struggle. According to the teachings of Gautama Buddha, suffering often arises not from the events themselves, but from the resistance we create toward those events. The mind forms an image of how life should look, and when reality does not match that image, the mind begins to fight against what is actually happening. Imagine holding your hand tightly closed around something that cannot be controlled. The tighter you hold it, the more tension you feel. Your muscles become tired, your mind becomes restless, and your entire body becomes uncomfortable. In many ways, this is exactly how the mind behaves when it refuses to accept the natural movement of life. True freedom begins when you stop trying to control everything and start learning how to work with life instead of against it. This does not mean becoming passive or giving up responsibility for your actions. Instead, it means recognizing the difference between what you can influence and what you cannot. There are many aspects of life that no human being can completely control. The behavior of other people, the sudden appearance of challenges, unexpected changes, and even the passing of time are all part of the natural flow of existence. When a person tries to force these things to follow their personal expectations, they often create unnecessary suffering. However, when a person learns to accept the reality of a situation before reacting to it, something important changes. The mind becomes calmer and more flexible. Instead of immediately reacting with frustration, the person begins to ask a different question. Given the situation as it is, what is the wisest response I can choose right now? This shift in thinking removes a great deal of emotional tension. Instead of wasting energy fighting against what cannot be changed, the mind focuses on responding with awareness and intelligence. Acceptance does not mean liking everything that happens. There will always be moments in life that feel painful, confusing, or disappointing. Acceptance simply means recognizing that the event has already occurred and that resisting it will not undo it. Once this recognition appears, the mind becomes free to focus on how to move forward. Many people misunderstand acceptance because they believe it means surrendering control over their life. In reality, acceptance creates more control, not less. When the mind stops fighting against reality, it gains the clarity needed to make wiser decisions. For example, imagine a person who suddenly loses an opportunity they were hoping for. If they react with anger and resentment, their mind may remain trapped in that emotional state for a long time. They may replay the situation repeatedly, thinking about what should have happened instead. During this time, their attention remains stuck in the past. But if the same person practices acceptance, they first acknowledge that the situation has already happened and cannot be reversed. Instead of endlessly wishing the past were different, they begin asking how they can learn from the experience and what new direction might now be possible. The event itself is the same in both cases. What changes is the way the mind approaches it. Another important aspect of freedom is understanding that life constantly moves in cycles. Joyful moments appear and disappear. Difficult moments appear and disappear. Success and failure often alternate throughout life. When a person expects life to remain permanently comfortable or permanently difficult, they misunderstand the nature of existence. The Buddha often described life as a flowing process rather than a fixed condition. Just as a river never stays exactly the same from one moment to the next, life is constantly changing. Situations evolve, emotions shift, and circumstances transform in ways that cannot always be predicted. When you accept this fluid nature of life, you stop feeling shocked by every change that occurs. Instead of demanding that life remain stable, you begin to adapt to the movement of each moment. This flexibility creates a sense of inner resilience that allows you to remain balanced, even when circumstances shift unexpectedly. One of the most beautiful aspects of this understanding is the sense of lightness it brings to the mind. When a person stops trying to force life into a rigid structure, much of the pressure they once carried begins to fade. They no longer feel as though they must constantly control every outcome. Instead, they begin approaching life with curiosity and openness. Each situation becomes an opportunity to learn rather than a problem to fight against. Each challenge becomes a chance to grow stronger rather than proof that life is unfair. This shift in perspective transforms the experience of time as well. When people spend their days resisting reality, time feels heavy and burdensome. Every obstacle feels like a delay, preventing them from reaching the life they imagine they should have. But when resistance fades and acceptance grows, each moment becomes easier to experience. Life feels less like a battle and more like a journey of discovery. Even difficult moments become part of a larger process that contributes to personal growth and understanding. True freedom does not come from controlling the world. It comes from understanding how to live wisely within it. When you stop fighting life and start learning from it, your mind becomes calmer, your actions become clearer, and your energy becomes focused on what truly matters. Instead of exhausting yourself by resisting every unexpected change, you begin moving with the natural rhythm of life. You learn when to act with determination and when to allow situations to unfold naturally. And in that balance between effort and acceptance, you discover a quiet freedom that many people search for their entire lives without ever realizing it was always available within their own mind. 12. Realize that life is not meant to be rushed. It is meant to be experienced. One of the quiet tragedies of modern life is how quickly people move through it without truly experiencing it. Many individuals live as if life were a race they must constantly win. They rush from one responsibility to another, from one goal to the next, always focused on what still needs to be achieved. Their minds are almost always somewhere else, thinking about tomorrow's plans, yesterday's mistakes, or the next milestone they hope to reach. Because of this constant rushing, they rarely feel fully present in the moment they are actually living. The teachings of Gautama Buddha offer a powerful reminder about the nature of life. Life is not something that exists only in the future. It unfolds quietly within the present moment. Every breath you take, every conversation you have, every experience you encounter is part of the life you are living right now. When the mind is constantly chasing the next moment, it unintentionally ignores the one that truly exists. Many people believe they must rush because life is short. They think that by moving faster and achieving more, they will somehow make the most of their limited time. But rushing through life often produces the opposite result. When you hurry through your days without awareness, time seems to disappear more quickly. Weeks blur into months, months turn into years, and suddenly large portions of life feel as if they passed by unnoticed. The Buddha taught that awareness slows down this experience of time. When a person becomes mindful of the present moment, life begins to feel fuller and richer. Even simple activities such as walking, eating, or breathing become opportunities to experience existence more deeply. Instead of feeling as if life is slipping away, the person begins to feel as if life is unfolding moment by moment in front of them. Rushing often comes from the belief that happiness exists somewhere ahead of us. People imagine that once they reach a certain level of success, once they complete a certain goal, or once their life becomes more stable, they will finally allow themselves to relax and enjoy life. But the problem with this mindset is that the mind constantly creates new goals and new expectations. As soon as one milestone is reached, another appears. In this way, a person can spend their entire life chasing the next destination without ever fully appreciating the journey itself. Buddhist wisdom invites people to reconsider this habit of constant striving. It encourages them to ask a simple but powerful question. If happiness is always waiting in the future, when will life actually be lived? The answer is clear. Life can only be lived in the present moment. When a person begins to slow down and bring awareness to their daily experiences, many things start to change. They begin noticing details they previously ignored: the sound of the wind, the warmth of sunlight, the expression on another person's face, and the rhythm of their own breathing become more vivid and meaningful. These moments may appear small from the outside, but they are actually the building blocks of a rich life experience. When the mind becomes fully present, even ordinary moments carry a sense of depth and clarity that rushing cannot provide. Another important realization is that rushing often disconnects people from the people around them. When someone is always thinking about the next task or the next goal, they may listen to others without truly hearing them. Conversations become shorter and more distracted. Relationships become less meaningful because attention is constantly divided. But when a person slows down and becomes fully present during interactions with others, relationships deepen naturally. Listening becomes more sincere. Understanding becomes easier. Small gestures of kindness and attention begin to strengthen bonds between people. In this way, slowing down does not mean becoming less productive or less ambitious. Instead, it means bringing greater awareness into the actions you are already performing. A mindful person can still pursue goals, work hard, and grow in many areas of life. The difference is that their attention remains present during the process instead of constantly rushing toward the next outcome. The Buddha often emphasized that suffering arises when the mind becomes trapped between regret about the past and anxiety about the future. When people constantly think about what has already happened or worry about what might happen next, they miss the one place where life is actually unfolding. By returning attention to the present moment, the mind gradually becomes calmer. Thoughts slow down, emotions become clearer, and decisions become wiser because they are no longer made from a place of panic or impatience. Slowing down also allows a person to recognize how precious each moment truly is. When life is rushed, moments feel disposable. People assume there will always be another opportunity, another conversation, another chance to appreciate someone or express gratitude. But when the pace of life slows, awareness of time naturally deepens. A simple moment shared with someone you love begins to feel valuable because you understand that it will not last forever. A quiet evening becomes meaningful because you recognize that moments of peace are part of a life that is constantly changing. This awareness does not create sadness. Instead, it creates appreciation. One of the greatest gifts of mindfulness is that it allows a person to experience life more fully without needing dramatic changes in circumstances. A person does not need extraordinary wealth, fame, or adventure to live a meaningful life. They simply need the ability to be present within the experiences they already have. When the mind becomes present, life becomes richer. Ordinary moments reveal their beauty. Simple experiences reveal their depth. Even challenges reveal their lessons more clearly. Another important effect of slowing down is the ability to respond to life with greater wisdom. When the mind rushes, reactions often become impulsive. People say things they later regret, make decisions without thinking carefully, or allow emotions to control their behavior. But when awareness is present, there is a small pause between an event and the response that follows. Within that pause lies the ability to choose a wiser reaction. Instead of reacting automatically, the person can observe the situation calmly and respond with clarity. Over time, this ability creates emotional balance and inner stability. Life no longer feels like a series of chaotic reactions. Instead, it becomes a flow of experiences that can be navigated with patience and understanding. The deeper message behind slowing down is not about doing less, it is about experiencing more. When awareness enters each moment, life expands in a way that rushing never allows. Time no longer feels like something slipping through your fingers. Instead, each moment becomes a meaningful part of your journey. When people reach the later stages of life, many of them look back and realize that the moments they remember most clearly were not always the biggest achievements or the most dramatic events. Often, the memories that remain strongest are simple moments shared with loved ones, moments of quiet reflection, or experiences when they felt truly present. This realization carries an important lesson. Life is not measured only by what you accomplish. It is also measured by how deeply you experience the moments along the way. When you stop rushing through life and begin experiencing it with awareness, your days begin to feel fuller. Time still moves forward, but it no longer feels as though it is disappearing unnoticed. Instead, each moment becomes part of a life that is being lived consciously and completely. And when you finally understand that life is not meant to be rushed but experienced, you discover that the secret to living fully before time runs out has always been simple. Be present, be aware, be alive in this moment. 13. Discover that gratitude turns ordinary time into a meaningful life. Many people move through life focusing on what is missing rather than appreciating what is already present. The mind easily becomes attached to what it does not have yet. It compares, it desires, and it constantly imagines a better version of life that might exist somewhere in the future. Because of this habit, people often overlook the quiet abundance that already surrounds them. They may have health, opportunities, supportive relationships, and moments of peace, yet their attention remains fixed on the next achievement or the next improvement they believe will finally make them satisfied. This tendency of the mind to focus on what is lacking can slowly drain the joy out of life. Even when good things are happening, the person may feel restless because their mind is already chasing the next goal. They may achieve something they once deeply wanted, but the feeling of satisfaction lasts only briefly before another desire takes its place. Over time, this pattern creates a constant feeling that something important is always missing. The teachings of Gautama Buddha encourage a very different approach to life. Instead of constantly chasing what is not yet present, Buddhist wisdom invites people to develop gratitude for what already exists in their lives. Gratitude is not simply a polite emotion or a temporary feeling of appreciation. It is a powerful shift in perception that changes how a person experiences time, relationships, and daily life. When gratitude becomes part of a person's mindset, ordinary moments begin to feel more meaningful. Instead of seeing a quiet day as boring or uneventful, the mind begins to recognize it as an opportunity to experience peace. Instead of taking relationships for granted, a person begins to appreciate the presence of the people who share their life journey. Even simple experiences such as breathing fresh air, enjoying a meal, or watching the sunlight change during the day can become reminders that life itself is a remarkable gift. Many people believe that gratitude should appear only after something extraordinary happens. They feel grateful when they receive good news, achieve success, or experience something special. While these moments naturally create gratitude, the deeper practice of gratitude involves recognizing the value of everyday life itself. Every morning a person wakes up is another chance to experience the world. The ability to see, hear, move, learn, and connect with others is something many people rarely pause to appreciate. These abilities are often treated as normal or expected, yet they are actually remarkable aspects of being alive. When a person begins practicing gratitude regularly, the way they experience time begins to change. Instead of feeling that days are simply passing by, they begin to notice what each day offers. A peaceful conversation, a moment of laughter, or a quiet period of reflection becomes something to appreciate rather than something to overlook. This change in perspective has a profound effect on emotional well-being. When the mind is constantly focused on what is missing, it creates dissatisfaction and impatience. But when the mind learns to recognize what is already present, it naturally produces feelings of contentment and calm. Gratitude also strengthens relationships in powerful ways. When people begin to appreciate others more consciously, they naturally express kindness and respect more often. Instead of assuming that loved ones will always remain part of their life, they begin to value the time they share together. This awareness encourages deeper listening, more meaningful conversations, and a greater willingness to support one another during difficult times. In many cases, relationships become stronger not because of dramatic gestures, but because of consistent appreciation. A simple acknowledgement, a moment of genuine attention, or a sincere expression of gratitude can deepen the bond between people in ways that large actions sometimes cannot. Another important effect of gratitude is the way it reduces unnecessary comparison. Many people constantly measure their life against the lives of others. They compare their achievements, possessions, appearance, or social status with what they see around them. This habit often creates feelings of inadequacy, even when a person's life is already filled with valuable experiences. Gratitude interrupts this cycle of comparison by shifting attention away from what others have and back toward what already exists within one's own life. Instead of constantly measuring themselves against external standards, a grateful person becomes more aware of the unique path their own life has taken. This awareness brings a sense of acceptance and peace that comparison rarely provides. The practice of gratitude also helps people navigate difficult periods of life with greater resilience. Challenges, losses, and disappointments are part of every human experience. When the mind focuses only on the negative aspects of these situations, it can easily become overwhelmed by frustration or sadness. But gratitude creates a broader perspective. Even during difficult times, there are often small aspects of life that still hold value. The support of a friend, a moment of clarity gained from a challenge, or the simple strength to continue moving forward can all become sources of gratitude. Recognizing these elements does not remove the difficulty of a situation, but it prevents the mind from becoming completely consumed by it. Gratitude reminds a person that life contains both challenges and blessings at the same time. Over time, practicing gratitude gradually transforms the overall tone of a person's life. The mind becomes less restless and more appreciative. Instead of constantly searching for something better, the person begins to experience fulfillment within the life they are already living. This transformation does not require dramatic changes in circumstances. It begins with a simple shift in awareness. A person may begin by noticing one meaningful aspect of their day. Perhaps it is a moment of quiet reflection, a supportive message from someone they care about, or the opportunity to learn something new. When the mind pauses to appreciate these moments, gratitude slowly grows stronger. As this habit continues, appreciation begins to appear more naturally throughout daily life. The person becomes more aware of the small gifts that each day quietly offers. In this way, gratitude becomes a powerful tool for living fully before time runs out. Instead of waiting for extraordinary events to feel thankful, a person learns to recognize the value of the moments that are already part of their life. Time no longer feels empty or ordinary. Each day becomes an opportunity to notice the richness of existence itself. And when gratitude becomes part of how you see the world, something beautiful happens. Moments that once seemed insignificant begin to shine with quiet meaning. Life itself begins to feel like a gift that is unfolding one moment at a time. 14. Understand that letting go is the door to a peaceful life. One of the most difficult lessons for many people to learn in life is the art of letting go. The human mind naturally wants to hold on to things. It holds on to memories, expectations, relationships, past mistakes, and even painful experiences. People often believe that by holding on tightly, they are protecting something valuable. They believe that if they keep thinking about the past or keep worrying about the future, they will somehow maintain control over their life. But in reality, this habit of holding on too tightly often becomes one of the main reasons people suffer. The wisdom of Gautama Buddha teaches that attachment is one of the primary sources of human suffering. Attachment does not only mean loving someone or caring deeply about something. It refers to the mental habit of clinging to things in a way that prevents the mind from accepting change. When the mind becomes attached, it begins to believe that certain experiences, people, or circumstances must remain exactly the same in order for life to feel safe and complete. But life itself does not function this way. Everything in existence is constantly changing. Relationships evolve, situations transform, opportunities appear and disappear, and time continues to move forward without stopping. When the mind tries to freeze these moving parts of life, it creates tension. That tension often appears as anxiety, frustration, sadness, or fear. Letting go does not mean becoming indifferent or emotionally disconnected from life. Many people misunderstand this concept because they assume that letting go means they must stop caring about the people and experiences that matter to them. In truth, letting go means learning how to care without clinging. It means appreciating what exists in the present moment, while also accepting that change is a natural part of life. Imagine holding sand in your hand. If you try to grip it tightly, the sand slips through your fingers more quickly. But if you hold your hand gently open, the sand can rest there naturally. In many ways, life behaves in the same way. When people try to control every outcome and hold on to every moment too tightly, they often create the very suffering they are trying to avoid. The practice of letting go allows the mind to relax its grip on things that cannot be controlled. Instead of constantly resisting change, a person begins to work with the natural movement of life. This shift creates a deep sense of inner freedom. One of the areas where letting go becomes especially important is the relationship people have with their past. Many individuals spend years replaying past events in their mind. They think about mistakes they made, words they wish they had said differently, or opportunities they missed. These memories can become heavy burdens that follow them through their life. While reflecting on the past can sometimes provide valuable lessons, constantly clinging to it prevents a person from fully experiencing the present moment. The past cannot be changed, no matter how many times it is revisited in the mind. The only thing that can be influenced is the way a person responds to the present. When someone begins to let go of past regrets, they create space for growth and healing. Instead of remaining trapped in old memories, they begin focusing their energy on the opportunities that exist right now. This does not erase the past, but it allows the mind to move forward without carrying unnecessary emotional weight. Letting go is also important when dealing with the expectations people create for their future. Many individuals imagine a very specific version of how their life should unfold. They expect certain achievements, certain relationships, and certain timelines. When reality unfolds differently, they may feel disappointed or frustrated because life did not match the picture they created in their mind. The problem is not having hopes or dreams. It is becoming so attached to a specific outcome that anything different feels like failure. Buddhist wisdom encourages people to pursue their goals with effort and dedication, while also remaining open to the many possibilities life may present. Sometimes the path that appears unexpectedly can lead to growth and opportunities that were never imagined before. When a person learns to let go of rigid expectations, they begin to approach life with greater curiosity and flexibility. Instead of constantly worrying about whether everything is going according to plan, they become more open to learning from each experience as it unfolds. Another powerful aspect of letting go involves releasing resentment and anger toward others. Holding on to resentment can feel justified, especially when someone has experienced unfair treatment or betrayal. But over time, resentment often harms the person carrying it more than the person who caused it. Anger and resentment keep the mind tied to painful experiences from the past. They replay situations repeatedly and prevent emotional healing from taking place. When a person chooses to let go of resentment, they are not necessarily approving of what happened. Instead, they are choosing to free their own mind from the weight of that experience. Forgiveness is often closely connected to letting go. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting or ignoring harmful actions. It means releasing the emotional grip those actions have on your mind. It means refusing to allow past pain to control your present peace. When a person begins practicing letting go in these different areas of life, their inner world gradually becomes lighter. The mind no longer feels crowded with unresolved tensions from the past or rigid expectations about the future. This lightness creates more space for awareness, gratitude, and peace. Letting go also changes the way people experience time. When the mind is constantly holding on to worries, regrets, and expectations, time feels heavy and stressful. But when those attachments begin to loosen, each moment becomes easier to experience. Life begins to feel less like a struggle and more like a journey that can be explored with openness and curiosity. Another important transformation occurs in the way a person relates to uncertainty. Many people fear uncertainty because they want life to feel predictable and secure. But uncertainty is an unavoidable part of existence. No one can completely control what will happen tomorrow, next year, or even in the next moment. When someone practices letting go, uncertainty begins to feel less threatening. Instead of seeing it only as a source of anxiety, they begin to recognize it as part of the natural flow of life. Each uncertain moment becomes an opportunity for discovery and growth, rather than something to resist. This perspective gradually replaces fear with trust. Not blind trust that everything will always go perfectly, but a deeper confidence that whatever life presents can be approached with awareness and resilience. Over time, letting go reveals a surprising truth. The more tightly a person tries to control life, the more stressful life tends to feel. But when the mind learns to release its constant grip on everything, a quiet peace begins to appear. This peace does not come from having perfect circumstances. It comes from understanding how to move through life without clinging to every experience. When you appreciate moments without demanding that they last forever, relationships become more meaningful. When you release past regrets, the present moment becomes clearer. When you loosen rigid expectations about the future, life becomes more open and full of possibility. In this way, letting go becomes one of the most powerful ways to live fully before time runs out. Instead of spending your life holding on to things that constantly change, you begin to experience life as it truly is, a flowing journey of moments that appear, transform, and gently pass away. And when the mind learns to move with that flow, rather than resist it, peace quietly becomes a natural part of everyday life. Now, 15. Write more. Long, write on 16000. Crackter. Make sure the crackter should be on 16000. Crackter. 15. Realize that the greatest journey of your life is the journey within. Many people spend their entire lives exploring the outside world while rarely taking time to explore their own inner world. They travel to new places, meet different people, chase achievements, and search for experiences that they believe will finally bring them happiness. While these external journeys can certainly be valuable, there is another journey that is often overlooked, the journey of understanding oneself. The wisdom of Gautama Buddha teaches that true transformation begins when a person turns their attention inward. Instead of constantly focusing on what is happening outside, they begin observing what is happening within their own mind. This inward journey is not about escaping the world or isolating oneself from life. It is about discovering the deeper patterns that shape the way you think, feel, and respond to the experiences around you. Most people move through life reacting automatically to their thoughts and emotions. When anger appears, they react with anger. When fear appears, they react with avoidance. When desire appears, they immediately chase it. These reactions often happen so quickly that people rarely pause to question them. As a result, their behavior becomes controlled by patterns they may not fully understand. The inward journey begins when a person becomes curious about these patterns. Instead of immediately reacting to every emotion or thought, they begin observing them with awareness. They ask themselves questions such as, "Why did that situation affect me so strongly? Why do certain events trigger fear or frustration? Why do I feel the need for approval from others?" These questions are not meant to judge or criticize oneself. They are meant to develop understanding. When a person begins observing their own mind with patience and honesty, they slowly discover the beliefs, fears, and habits that influence their behavior. For example, someone might realize that much of their stress comes from constantly trying to meet the expectations of others. Another person may notice that their anger often appears when they feel misunderstood or insecure. These realizations are powerful because they reveal the hidden forces shaping daily experiences. The Buddha often taught that self-awareness is the foundation of wisdom. Without understanding your own mind, it is difficult to understand the world clearly. The mind filters every experience through its own beliefs, memories, and expectations. When these inner patterns remain unnoticed, they can distort how a person sees reality. But when awareness grows, these patterns begin to lose their control. The inward journey also reveals something surprising about the nature of happiness. Many people believe happiness must come from external circumstances, such as wealth, success, or recognition. While these things can provide temporary satisfaction, they do not guarantee lasting peace. A person may achieve everything they once believed would make them happy, yet still feel restless or unfulfilled. Through inner exploration, a person begins to understand that happiness is deeply connected to the state of the mind itself. When the mind is filled with constant comparison, fear, or resentment, even the most comfortable life can feel unsatisfying. But when the mind becomes calm, aware, and compassionate, even simple experiences can feel deeply fulfilling. This realization shifts the focus of life from constantly chasing external achievements to cultivating inner balance. The inward journey also teaches patience. Understanding the mind is not something that happens overnight. Just as learning a new skill requires practice and time, developing awareness of the mind is a gradual process. Thoughts and emotions will continue to appear, and old habits may still arise. The key is not to force the mind into perfection, but to continue observing it with curiosity and compassion. Over time, this practice strengthens mindfulness, the ability to remain present and aware without being overwhelmed by mental activity. When mindfulness becomes stronger, thoughts and emotions are no longer experienced as uncontrollable forces. Instead, they become events that can be observed and understood. This shift creates a profound sense of freedom. Another important discovery during the inward journey is the realization that many fears are created by the mind itself. People often imagine negative outcomes or worry about situations that may never happen. These thoughts create anxiety, even when there is no immediate danger. By observing these thoughts carefully, a person begins to see how the mind sometimes exaggerates problems or creates unnecessary worries. This awareness weakens the power these thoughts once had. Instead of immediately believing every fearful idea, the person learns to pause and question it. This ability to observe the mind calmly creates emotional resilience. Challenges still occur, but the person becomes less overwhelmed by them because they understand how the mind reacts to stress. The inward journey also deepens compassion toward others. When a person begins to understand their own fears, insecurities, and struggles, they naturally become more empathetic toward the experiences of others. They realize that many people act out of confusion, fear, or pain rather than deliberate cruelty. This understanding softens judgment and encourages patience. Instead of reacting with anger when someone behaves poorly, the person may respond with greater understanding. They recognize that everyone is navigating their own inner struggles. In this way, self-awareness not only transforms the individual, but also improves the way they interact with the world around them. Another important aspect of the inward journey is discovering inner silence. Modern life constantly fills the mind with noise, conversations, information, entertainment, and endless streams of thoughts. Because of this noise, many people rarely experience moments of true mental stillness. But when a person spends time quietly observing their mind through reflection or meditation, they begin to discover a deeper layer of awareness beneath the constant flow of thoughts. In this quiet space, the mind becomes calmer and clearer. This inner silence is not emptiness. It is a state of peaceful awareness, where thoughts may still appear, but no longer dominate the mind. Many people describe this experience as feeling grounded or centered. Instead of feeling scattered by every passing thought, they feel connected to a stable presence within themselves. This connection to inner stillness becomes an important source of strength. During difficult moments, the person can return to this calm awareness rather than becoming lost in emotional reactions. As the inward journey continues, a person gradually realizes that understanding oneself is one of the most meaningful experiences life can offer. External achievements may come and go, but the clarity gained from self-awareness remains. This clarity influences every aspect of life. Decisions become wiser because they are guided by deeper understanding. Relationships become healthier because they are built on honesty and empathy. Even challenges become opportunities for learning rather than obstacles to happiness. Ultimately, the inward journey reveals that the greatest transformation does not come from changing the world around you. It comes from understanding the mind that experiences that world. When you begin exploring your inner world with patience and curiosity, life becomes more than a series of events. It becomes a path of discovery. Each moment becomes an opportunity to learn something new about yourself, about others, and about the nature of existence itself. And as you walk this path of awareness, you begin to realize that the most meaningful journey you will ever take is not measured by distance or achievements. It is measured by how deeply you come to understand your own mind and how peacefully you learn to live within it. 16. Realize that every ending is also the beginning of something new. One of the most difficult experiences people face in life is dealing with endings. Relationships end, opportunities disappear, phases of life change, and sometimes the plans people once believed would define their future suddenly fall apart. When these endings occur, the mind often reacts with sadness, fear, or confusion. It may feel as though something valuable has been permanently lost, and the future may appear uncertain or empty. Human beings naturally become attached to the familiar. When something has been part of life for a long time, it becomes a source of comfort and identity. A relationship, a career path, a routine, or even a dream can become deeply connected to how a person understands their place in the world. When that connection ends, it can feel as if a piece of life itself has disappeared. But the deeper wisdom of Buddhism offers a perspective that transforms the way we understand endings. According to the teachings of Gautama Buddha, change is not something that occasionally happens in life. Change is the fundamental nature of life itself. Everything that exists is constantly moving, evolving, and transforming. This understanding can feel uncomfortable at first, because the mind often seeks stability and permanence. People want certain things to last forever: love, success, happiness, and security. But when a person begins to see that change is woven into the fabric of existence, endings begin to look different. Instead of seeing an ending as the destruction of something meaningful, it can be seen as the natural closing of one chapter and the opening of another. Consider how many different stages exist within a single lifetime. Childhood eventually becomes adolescence, adolescence becomes adulthood, and adulthood gradually evolves into later stages of life. Each stage contains experiences, lessons, and relationships that shape who a person becomes. If any of these stages never changed, growth would not occur. In the same way, many experiences in life are temporary, not because they are meaningless, but because they are meant to guide us towards something new. The Buddha often used the example of nature to illustrate this truth. When the seasons change, leaves fall from trees and flowers fade away. At first glance, this might appear as loss, but within the cycle of nature, these endings create space for new growth to emerge. Without the change of seasons, the rhythm of life would stop. Human life follows a similar rhythm. Moments that appear to be endings often contain the seeds of future beginnings. When people resist endings too strongly, they often remain mentally trapped in the past. They may replay memories repeatedly, wishing that things had remained the same. They may feel anger or regret about what has been lost. While these reactions are natural, staying attached to them for too long prevents the mind from moving forward. Letting go of an ending does not mean forgetting what happened or pretending it was not important. It means accepting that the experience has already completed its role in your life and that the present moment now holds new possibilities. One of the most powerful aspects of this perspective is the sense of openness it creates. When the mind accepts that life is constantly changing, it becomes less afraid of uncertainty. Instead of viewing the future as something to fear, it begins to see it as something to explore. Every ending becomes an invitation to grow, adapt, and discover new aspects of life. Many people can look back on their past and identify moments that once felt devastating but later revealed unexpected opportunities. A career path that ended may have led to a new passion. A relationship that concluded may have created space for deeper personal growth. A difficult period of life may have taught resilience, patience, or compassion. These realizations often appear only after time has passed. In the moment of an ending, it is difficult to see what lies ahead. But when the mind learns to trust the natural unfolding of life, it becomes easier to move forward without excessive fear. Another important lesson connected to endings is the value of presence. When people assume that certain experiences will last forever, they often take them for granted. They may postpone expressing gratitude or appreciation because they believe there will always be another opportunity. But when a person understands that everything in life eventually changes, they begin to appreciate moments more deeply while they are still present. A conversation with someone you care about becomes more meaningful because you recognize that time together is limited. A peaceful moment becomes more valuable because you understand that life constantly evolves. In this way, the awareness of endings actually strengthens the beauty of the present moment. Endings also play an important role in personal transformation. Many individuals remain stuck in patterns that no longer serve them simply because they fear change. They may remain in environments that restrict their growth or continue habits that prevent them from becoming the person they wish to be. But when an ending occurs, it can disrupt these patterns and create space for new possibilities. Although this disruption may feel uncomfortable, it often leads to growth that would not have happened otherwise. For example, someone who loses a familiar routine may be forced to explore new interests. Someone who experiences the end of a relationship may begin reflecting on their own values and emotional patterns. Someone who faces an unexpected challenge may discover strengths they never realized they possessed. In this way, endings often become powerful teachers. They remind us that life is not a fixed story that must follow a predetermined script. It is a living process that constantly invites adaptation and discovery. The more a person learns to accept this process, the lighter their mind becomes. Instead of fearing every change, they begin to trust their ability to navigate new situations with awareness and resilience. Over time, this perspective transforms the relationship a person has with time itself. Instead of viewing time as something that is constantly taking things away, they begin to see it as something that continuously creates new experiences. Each ending becomes part of a larger journey that leads to deeper understanding. And when the mind begins to accept that life moves in cycles of beginnings and endings, a quiet peace begins to appear. The fear of losing things gradually fades because the person understands that every ending naturally leads to another beginning. Life no longer feels like a series of losses to resist. Instead, it becomes a flowing journey where each chapter carries its own lessons, its own beauty, and its own purpose. And when you learn to see endings in this way, you begin to understand that nothing in life truly disappears without leaving behind the possibility of something new. 17. Understand that your mind creates the quality of your life. Many people spend their lives trying to change everything around them in order to feel better. They believe that if their circumstances improve, if other people behave differently, or if they finally achieve the success they are chasing, then peace and happiness will naturally appear. Because of this belief, they constantly focus on adjusting the outside world. They change jobs, chase goals, compare themselves with others, and search for situations that promise a better future. But even after reaching certain milestones, many individuals discover that the feeling of satisfaction they expected does not last very long. The excitement fades, new worries appear, and the mind quickly finds something else to chase or something else to complain about. This cycle can repeat for years, leaving a person confused about why life never feels as fulfilling as they hoped. The deeper wisdom of Buddhism offers a powerful explanation for this experience. According to the teachings of Gautama Buddha, the quality of a person's life is deeply connected to the condition of their mind. External circumstances certainly influence our experiences, but the mind ultimately shapes how those circumstances are interpreted and felt. Two people can live in similar environments, yet experience life in completely different ways. One person may constantly feel dissatisfied, anxious, or frustrated. The other may experience gratitude, calmness, and contentment even while facing challenges. The difference between these two lives is not necessarily the events that occur, but the mindset through which those events are viewed. This realization can feel surprising because many people are taught to believe that happiness depends almost entirely on external success. Society often praises wealth, recognition, and achievement as the ultimate goals of life. While these things can bring comfort and opportunities, they do not automatically guarantee inner peace. The Buddha taught that the mind itself is the foundation of happiness and suffering. When the mind is filled with constant comparison, resentment, or fear, even the most comfortable life can feel stressful. But when the mind becomes calm, aware, and compassionate, even simple circumstances can bring deep satisfaction. Understanding this truth shifts the focus of life in a powerful way. Instead of spending all your energy trying to control the outside world, you begin paying attention to the inner world that experiences everything. The mind constantly produces thoughts, emotions, judgments, and expectations. Many of these mental activities occur automatically. A negative thought appears, and the person immediately believes it. An uncomfortable situation arises, and the mind instantly reacts with irritation or anxiety. Over time, these automatic reactions become patterns. A person who frequently thinks in negative ways begins to see the world through a pessimistic lens. A person who constantly worries about the future may experience life as a series of threats rather than opportunities. But the important discovery of Buddhist practice is that these patterns are not fixed. The mind can be trained, just as the body can be trained through exercise. Through awareness and practice, a person can gradually reshape the habits of their mind. One of the first steps in this process is learning to observe thoughts instead of automatically obeying them. Most people treat every thought that appears in their mind as if it were a fact. If the mind says, "This situation is terrible," they immediately feel terrible. If the mind says, "Something bad might happen," they immediately begin worrying. But when a person develops mindfulness, they begin to notice thoughts as mental events rather than unquestionable truths. They see that thoughts come and go like clouds passing through the sky. Some thoughts are helpful, while others are exaggerated or unnecessary. By observing thoughts instead of immediately reacting to them, the mind begins to gain space. This space allows a person to respond to situations more wisely rather than impulsively. For example, imagine facing criticism from someone. An untrained mind may immediately react with anger or defensiveness, but a mindful mind pauses and examines the situation. It asks whether the criticism contains useful feedback or whether it can simply be ignored. This pause prevents unnecessary emotional turmoil. Another important aspect of training the mind is cultivating positive qualities such as compassion, patience, and gratitude. These qualities do not appear automatically, they grow through practice and intention. When a person intentionally focuses on gratitude, they begin noticing the positive aspects of their life more frequently. When they practice patience, they gradually reduce impulsive reactions to difficult situations. When they cultivate compassion, their relationships become more harmonious and meaningful. Over time, these qualities reshape the overall atmosphere of the mind. A peaceful mind begins to see the world differently. Instead of constantly searching for problems, it becomes more aware of opportunities for growth and connection. Challenges still occur, but they are approached with curiosity and resilience rather than immediate despair. Another powerful realization occurs when a person understands that many emotional reactions are temporary. Feelings of anger, fear, sadness, or excitement often appear strongly but fade naturally with time. When people identify completely with these emotions, they may feel overwhelmed by them, but when they learn to observe emotions with awareness, they begin to see that emotions are like waves. They rise, reach a peak, and eventually settle again. This understanding reduces the fear of difficult emotions because a person realizes they do not last forever. Instead of resisting or suppressing emotions, they allow them to pass through their experience while remaining aware. Gradually, this creates emotional balance. Life becomes less chaotic because the mind is no longer constantly controlled by sudden emotional impulses. Instead, the person develops the ability to remain steady even during challenging moments. Another benefit of understanding the mind is the freedom it provides from unnecessary comparison. Many people suffer because they constantly measure their life against the lives of others. They compare their achievements, possessions, appearance, or social status and conclude that they are falling behind. But comparison is created by the mind itself. It arises from the belief that happiness depends on being better or more successful than others. When the mind becomes more aware, this habit begins to lose its power. A person realizes that each life follows its own unique path. Instead of competing endlessly, they begin focusing on their own growth and understanding. This shift brings a deep sense of relief because it removes the pressure to constantly prove oneself. Over time, training the mind creates a profound transformation in how life is experienced. Situations that once caused intense stress become easier to navigate. Relationships improve because reactions become calmer and more thoughtful. The person begins to feel more present in each moment, rather than constantly lost in worries about the past or future. This does not mean that life becomes free of challenges. Difficult moments will still appear, and unexpected situations will still arise. But the difference is that the person now possesses an inner stability that allows them to face these experiences with clarity and strength. The Buddha often emphasized that mastering the mind is one of the most important achievements a person can accomplish. External success may bring temporary satisfaction, but a well-trained mind provides a deeper and more lasting peace. When you begin to understand your own mind, you gain the ability to shape the quality of your life from within. You realize that while you cannot control every event that occurs in the world, you can influence how your mind responds to those events. And that realization opens the door to a life that feels more balanced, more aware, and far more meaningful than one spent endlessly chasing external conditions. 18. Realize that the true purpose of life is to awaken. Many people spend their entire lives searching for a clear purpose. They ask themselves what they are supposed to achieve, what success should look like, and what kind of life will finally make them feel fulfilled. Society often provides many answers to these questions. It encourages people to pursue wealth, recognition, power, or social status as signs of a meaningful life. Because of this, many individuals devote years of their time chasing achievements that promise happiness. However, even after reaching these goals, many people discover that the deep sense of fulfillment they expected does not fully arrive. The excitement of success may appear for a while, but eventually the mind begins searching for something more. This feeling can leave a person wondering whether there is a deeper purpose behind life itself. The wisdom of Gautama Buddha offers a profound answer to this question. According to Buddhist teachings, the ultimate purpose of life is not simply to accumulate achievements or possessions. The deeper purpose is to awaken from the habits of unconscious living and to see life with clarity, compassion, and wisdom. Many people move through life almost automatically. Their actions are guided by habits, impulses, fears, and desires that operate without much awareness. They follow routines, respond emotionally to situations, and chase goals that they have rarely stopped to examine deeply. In this state, life can feel repetitive and confusing because the person is constantly reacting rather than consciously choosing their path. Awakening means becoming aware of these patterns. It means recognizing how the mind functions and understanding the forces that shape our thoughts, emotions, and actions. When a person begins observing their own mind with honesty and curiosity, they start noticing the habits that once controlled their life. For example, someone may realize that much of their stress comes from constantly comparing themselves with others. Another person may discover that their fear of failure prevents them from pursuing meaningful opportunities. Someone else might notice how resentment toward the past continues to influence their present experiences. These realizations are not meant to create self-judgment. Instead, they open the door to transformation. When a person becomes aware of the patterns that shape their life, they gain the ability to change those patterns. Awakening also involves seeing the nature of reality more clearly. Many people believe that happiness depends entirely on external circumstances. They assume that if they obtain certain things or avoid certain difficulties, they will finally feel complete. But the Buddha taught that clinging to this belief often creates suffering because external conditions are always changing. Wealth can disappear, relationships can evolve, health can shift, and circumstances can transform in unexpected ways. If happiness depends entirely on these unstable conditions, peace becomes difficult to maintain. Awakening reveals that true stability must come from within the mind itself. When a person develops awareness, compassion, and wisdom, they create a foundation of inner peace that is less dependent on external events. This does not mean withdrawing from life or abandoning responsibilities. Instead, It means engaging with life more consciously. The awakened mind still works, builds relationships, and pursues meaningful goals, but it does so with greater clarity and balance. Another important aspect of awakening is recognizing the interconnected nature of life. Many people see themselves as completely separate from others, focusing primarily on their own desires and struggles. But as awareness deepens, a person begins to see how deeply connected human beings are to one another. Every action affects the lives of others in some way. Kindness spreads through relationships, while anger and hostility can create waves of suffering. When a person understands this interconnectedness, compassion naturally becomes stronger. Compassion is a central part of the awakened life. It involves recognizing the struggles that others face and responding with understanding rather than judgment. Instead of seeing people only through the lens of their behavior, the awakened mind sees the deeper causes behind that behavior. Many people act out of fear, confusion, or pain that they themselves do not fully understand. When this truth becomes clear, it becomes easier to respond with patience and empathy. Awakening also changes the way a person experiences time. When someone lives unconsciously, time often feels like something that is constantly slipping away. Days pass quickly, and life can feel rushed or overwhelming. But when awareness grows, each moment becomes more vivid. The person begins to notice details that were previously ignored. A quiet conversation, the sound of nature, or the simple act of breathing can become meaningful experiences when attention is fully present. In this way, awakening transforms ordinary moments into opportunities for presence and appreciation. Meditation and mindfulness practices are often used in Buddhism to support this awakening process. These practices encourage people to observe their thoughts and emotions without immediately reacting to them. Over time, this observation strengthens awareness and reveals how the mind creates both suffering and peace. Through consistent mindfulness, a person gradually becomes less controlled by impulsive reactions. Instead of being carried away by every thought or emotion, they develop the ability to remain calm and centered. This inner stability becomes one of the greatest benefits of awakening. Another powerful realization that arises during this journey is the understanding that identity itself is more flexible than many people assume. Most individuals define themselves through fixed labels, such as their career, social status, achievements, or past experiences. They believe these labels fully describe who they are, but Buddhist teachings suggest that identity is constantly evolving. Thoughts change, beliefs change, and circumstances change. The person you were 10 years ago is not exactly the same person you are today. When someone understands this fluid nature of identity, they become less trapped by the past. Mistakes that once seemed permanent become opportunities for growth. Instead of feeling stuck in old roles or expectations, they gain the freedom to redefine themselves through conscious choices. Awakening also brings a deeper sense of humility. As awareness grows, a person realizes how much there is still to learn about life. Instead of believing they already understand everything, they approach experiences with curiosity and openness. This humility creates space for wisdom to develop. Over time, the awakened life becomes less focused on personal achievement and more focused on meaningful contribution. The person begins asking not only what they can gain from life, but also how they can bring kindness, understanding, and wisdom into the world around them. Small actions become important expressions of this intention. Helping someone who is struggling, listening with genuine attention, offering encouragement, or simply acting with integrity can create positive ripples that extend far beyond a single moment. The awakened life is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming aware. It is about noticing the patterns of the mind, understanding the nature of change, and responding to life with compassion and clarity. When a person begins walking this path of awakening, life gradually becomes more meaningful. The search for purpose shifts from chasing external achievements to cultivating inner understanding. Each moment becomes an opportunity to grow in awareness. Each experience becomes a teacher, and each day becomes part of a journey toward deeper wisdom and peace. In the end, the purpose of life may not be something that can be found in the outside world. It may be something that is gradually revealed as the mind awakens to the reality of the present moment. And when that awakening begins, life itself becomes the path. 19. Realize that time is your most precious teacher. Many people think of time as something that quietly slips away from them. They often feel as if time is an enemy that moves too quickly, taking youth, opportunities, and moments of happiness with it. Because of this feeling, people sometimes fear time or regret how quickly it seems to pass. They may look back on the years behind them and wonder where those years went. But the deeper wisdom of Buddhism encourages us to see time in a very different way. Instead of viewing time as something that only takes things away, it can be understood as one of the greatest teachers in life. Through time, human beings learn patience, wisdom, resilience, and understanding. Experiences that once seemed confusing or painful often reveal their meaning only after time has passed. According to the teachings of Gautama Buddha, every moment carries an opportunity for awareness and learning. Time is not simply a measure of days or years. It is the unfolding of experiences that shape the understanding of the mind. When people are young, they often believe that life must move quickly. They want to achieve goals immediately, solve problems instantly, and reach success as fast as possible. This impatience is natural because the mind often desires immediate results. But time teaches an important lesson. Many meaningful things in life require patience. Wisdom does not appear overnight. Compassion develops gradually through interactions with others. Emotional maturity grows through experiences of both joy and difficulty. Time provides the space for these qualities to deepen. When someone faces a challenge, it can feel overwhelming in the moment. Problems may appear enormous, and emotions may feel intense. But as time passes, perspective often changes. Situations that once felt impossible begin to make sense. Lessons hidden inside those experiences slowly become visible. This is one of the reasons time is such a powerful teacher. It allows the mind to step back from immediate emotions and see situations more clearly. Without time, many people would remain trapped in the intensity of their first reactions. But time gradually softens those reactions and creates room for reflection. For example, imagine a difficult moment in life, such as losing an opportunity or facing a major disappointment. In the beginning, the experience may feel painful and unfair. The mind may question why it happened and worry about the future. But as months or years pass, the person may begin to see that the experience led them toward a new direction they would never have discovered otherwise. What once appeared to be a loss may reveal itself as an important turning point. This pattern appears again and again throughout life. Time often reveals connections between events that were impossible to see when those events first occurred. Another lesson time teaches is humility. When people are younger, they sometimes believe they understand the world completely. They may feel confident about their opinions and certain about their beliefs. But as time passes and experiences accumulate, they begin to see how complex life truly is. Situations that once seemed simple reveal deeper layers. People who once appeared easy to judge become more understandable when their struggles are recognized. The world becomes less black and white and more nuanced. This humility is an important part of wisdom. Instead of assuming they already know everything, a person becomes more open to learning. They begin to listen more carefully, observe more deeply, and approach life with curiosity instead of rigid certainty. Time also teaches the value of patience. In a world that often demands instant results, patience can feel difficult to practice, but many of the most meaningful aspects of life unfold slowly. Relationships deepen through years of shared experiences. Skills develop through consistent practice. Personal growth occurs through repeated reflection and learning. When people try to rush these processes, they often become frustrated. But time reminds them that growth is not something that can be forced. Just as a tree grows gradually through seasons of change, human understanding grows through the steady passage of experience. Another important lesson time offers is the understanding of impermanence. Nothing in life remains exactly the same forever. Joyful moments eventually pass, and difficult moments eventually pass as well. When a person understands this truth deeply, they begin to experience life with greater balance. During difficult periods, the awareness of time reminds them that the situation will not last forever. Just as storms eventually clear, emotional struggles also shift with time. This understanding helps the mind remain patient and hopeful. During joyful periods, time also encourages appreciation. Knowing that beautiful moments will eventually change makes those moments feel more valuable while they are present. Instead of taking them for granted, a person begins to savor them more fully. Time also reveals how much people can change. Many individuals look back at their past and see a version of themselves that feels very different from who they are today. Beliefs evolve, priorities shift, and new insights emerge. This transformation shows that human beings are not fixed identities, but constantly developing individuals. Understanding this encourages compassion toward oneself and others. Mistakes made in the past become part of a learning process rather than permanent definitions of identity. Instead of feeling trapped by earlier decisions, a person realizes that growth is always possible. Time also helps people recognize what truly matters. In the rush of everyday life, many individuals spend large amounts of energy worrying about small problems or trying to impress others. But as time passes, these concerns often appear less important. What remains meaningful are the relationships, experiences, and moments of connection that shaped their journey. Many people who reflect on their lives later in life notice that the most valuable memories are often simple ones: time spent with loved ones, moments of laughter, acts of kindness, and experiences of genuine presence. Time gradually strips away the illusions that once seemed so urgent and reveals the deeper values that bring lasting fulfillment. Another important aspect of time as a teacher is that it encourages reflection. When people pause and look back at their experiences, they begin to see patterns in their life. They recognize the habits that brought them peace and the habits that created stress. This reflection allows them to adjust their path moving forward. Instead of repeating the same mistakes, they can use the lessons of time to make wiser choices. In this way, time becomes not only a measure of life, but also a guide for living it more consciously. Ultimately, understanding time as a teacher transforms the way a person experiences life. Instead of fearing the passage of time, they begin to appreciate it. Each year becomes an opportunity for learning rather than something to regret. Each experience becomes part of a larger story of growth. Time no longer feels like something that is simply running out. Instead, it becomes a companion that quietly reveals wisdom through every stage of life. And when a person learns to listen to the lessons time offers, they begin to understand that the passing of moments is not just the movement of life. It is the unfolding of understanding. Each day teaches something new. Each challenge strengthens awareness. Each experience adds another layer of wisdom. And through this quiet process, time gradually guides the mind toward clarity, compassion, and peace. 20. Realize that the greatest gift you can give the world is a peaceful mind. Many people spend their lives trying to change the world around them. They want to influence others, improve situations, fix problems, and create a better future. These desires often come from a sincere wish to make life more meaningful. However, in this effort to shape the outside world, people sometimes overlook something incredibly powerful: the state of their own mind. The deeper teachings of Gautama Buddha remind us that the condition of one's mind has a profound influence not only on personal happiness, but also on the well-being of everyone around us. A peaceful mind does not remain isolated inside a single person. It quietly spreads through conversations, relationships, and everyday interactions. When a person carries a restless or angry mind, that energy naturally affects the people around them. Words become harsher, reactions become quicker, and tension can easily spread through an environment. A single moment of anger or impatience can affect an entire conversation, sometimes even damaging relationships that took years to build. On the other hand, when someone develops a calm and balanced mind, the effect is very different. Their presence often brings stability to situations that might otherwise become chaotic. Their patience encourages others to slow down and think more clearly. Their compassion creates an atmosphere where people feel understood rather than judged. In this way, inner peace becomes something that benefits far more than just the individual who cultivates it. Many people believe that influencing the world requires power, authority, or fame. But history often shows that some of the most powerful influences come from individuals whose greatest strength was their clarity of mind and kindness of heart. A calm person can transform a tense discussion into a constructive one. A compassionate person can soften hostility with understanding. A patient person can prevent conflicts from escalating unnecessarily. These effects may appear small in the moment, but they gradually ripple outward into larger circles of life. One reason a peaceful mind has such influence is because human beings naturally mirror the emotional states of others. When someone speaks with anger, the listener often responds with anger. When someone reacts with fear, fear can quickly spread through a group. But when someone remains calm and thoughtful, others often begin to reflect that calmness as well. This phenomenon demonstrates how deeply connected human beings are to one another. The Buddha emphasized that cultivating inner peace is not only a personal journey, but also a form of service to the world. Every moment of patience prevents unnecessary suffering. Every act of compassion reduces hostility. Every calm response during conflict creates the possibility for understanding. The path toward a peaceful mind begins with awareness. Most people experience a constant stream of thoughts and emotions throughout the day. Some thoughts are helpful, while others create stress or negativity. Without awareness, these thoughts easily control reactions and behaviors. But when a person begins observing their mind carefully, they start recognizing patterns that once operated automatically. They notice when anger begins to rise, when fear appears, or when judgment quickly forms about another person. This awareness creates a moment of choice. Instead of immediately reacting to these impulses, the person can pause and respond with greater clarity. That pause may last only a few seconds, but within those seconds lies the possibility of choosing patience instead of anger, understanding instead of criticism, and calmness instead of panic. Over time, practicing this awareness strengthens emotional balance. A peaceful mind does not mean that difficult emotions never appear. Every human being experiences moments of frustration, sadness, or worry. The difference lies in how those emotions are handled. A peaceful mind recognizes emotions without allowing them to dominate every reaction. This balance becomes especially valuable during challenging situations. When problems arise, people with restless minds may quickly become overwhelmed. They may react impulsively or allow anxiety to cloud their judgment. But a peaceful mind approaches challenges differently. Instead of reacting immediately, it observes the situation calmly. This calmness creates the space needed for thoughtful decisions. Problems are addressed with clarity rather than panic. Another important aspect of a peaceful mind is compassion. When individuals become more aware of their own struggles and emotions, they begin to understand that others are experiencing similar difficulties. Every person carries unseen burdens, fears, and hopes. Recognizing this shared human experience naturally softens the way we treat one another. Compassion transforms interactions. Instead of responding harshly to someone's mistake, a compassionate mind responds with patience. Instead of assuming negative intentions, it considers the possibility that the other person may simply be struggling. These small shifts in perspective create powerful effects within relationships. Families become more supportive when members treat each other with understanding. Work environments become more cooperative when people approach challenges calmly instead of competitively. Communities become stronger when compassion replaces hostility. All of these changes begin with the state of individual minds. Another important element of inner peace is simplicity. Many people fill their lives with unnecessary mental noise. They constantly worry about opinions, compare themselves with others, or chase achievements that do not truly align with their values. This constant mental activity prevents the mind from resting. A peaceful mind learns to simplify. It focuses attention on what truly matters and gradually releases the need to control every small detail of life. It becomes less concerned with impressing others and more interested in living with honesty and awareness. This simplicity brings a quiet clarity to daily life. Decisions become easier because they are guided by genuine values rather than external pressure. Relationships become more authentic because they are built on understanding rather than competition. Meditation and mindfulness practices often support the development of this peaceful mind. By spending time observing the breath, thoughts, and emotions, a person gradually becomes more familiar with the workings of their own mind. This familiarity reduces confusion and strengthens emotional balance. Over time, the mind learns to settle more easily. Thoughts still arise, but they no longer create the same level of agitation. The person becomes more comfortable resting in the present moment. This presence is one of the most valuable gifts a person can offer to others. When someone listens fully without distraction, the other person feels genuinely heard. When someone speaks calmly during a conflict, the situation becomes easier to resolve. When someone approaches life with patience, the people around them often feel safer and more relaxed. These simple interactions shape the emotional atmosphere of everyday life. It is important to understand that developing a peaceful mind is not about becoming perfect. Everyone occasionally loses patience or becomes overwhelmed. The goal is not to eliminate all difficulty, but to gradually strengthen awareness and compassion. Each moment offers an opportunity to practice. Every conversation can become a chance to listen more deeply. Every challenge can become a chance to respond with patience. Every moment of awareness strengthens the foundation of inner peace. Over time, this peaceful mind becomes a quiet source of strength. Instead of being pushed around by every emotional wave, the person develops a stable center within themselves. This stability allows them to move through life with greater wisdom and resilience. And, as this inner calm grows, its influence extends far beyond the individual. Family members feel the difference. Friends notice the change. Even strangers may sense the calm presence of someone who carries peace within them. In this way, the greatest contribution a person can make to the world may not come from dramatic achievements or public recognition. It may come from something far simpler, yet deeply powerful, the quiet presence of a peaceful mind that brings clarity, compassion, and balance wherever it goes. 21. Realize that true freedom begins when you stop running from yourself. Many people spend their entire lives running. They run from uncomfortable emotions, from painful memories, from fears about the future, and sometimes even from the deeper questions about who they truly are. This running does not always appear obvious from the outside. It often takes the form of constant distraction, endless activity, or the pursuit of achievements that promise to keep the mind busy. A person may fill their days with work, entertainment, social media, or endless goals, believing that staying occupied will prevent them from feeling uncomfortable thoughts or emotions. At first, this strategy may seem effective. As long as the mind is constantly stimulated, it rarely has time to reflect deeply, but eventually the distractions fade, and the unresolved thoughts and emotions return again. The wisdom of Gautama Buddha teaches that true freedom cannot be found by escaping the mind. Instead, it arises from understanding the mind. Running away from inner struggles may delay discomfort temporarily, but it never resolves the underlying causes. The fears, doubts, and insecurities remain hidden beneath the surface, quietly influencing behavior and decisions. A person who constantly avoids self-reflection may appear successful or confident outwardly, yet still feel restless or uncertain inside. The journey toward freedom begins when a person becomes willing to face their inner world honestly. This does not mean judging or criticizing oneself. Instead, it means observing thoughts, emotions, and reactions with curiosity and compassion. When someone first begins this process, they may notice patterns they previously ignored. They might see how certain situations trigger anxiety, or how past experiences continue to shape their beliefs about themselves. They might recognize that many of their choices were guided by fear of rejection or the desire for approval rather than genuine passion. These realizations can feel uncomfortable at first because they reveal parts of the mind that were previously hidden. But they also carry immense power. Awareness transforms confusion into understanding. Once a pattern becomes visible, it can begin to change. The Buddha often emphasized that the mind itself is the source of both suffering and liberation. When the mind is dominated by fear, attachment, or ignorance, life becomes filled with tension. But when the mind develops awareness, clarity, and compassion, life becomes lighter and more balanced. Understanding the mind requires patience. Thoughts and emotions often move quickly, and it can take time to observe them clearly. But with consistent attention, patterns gradually become easier to recognize. For example, someone may notice that they frequently worry about how others perceive them. This worry might influence many aspects of their life, from the way they speak to the choices they make about work or relationships. When this pattern becomes visible, the person can begin questioning whether those fears are truly necessary. They might ask themselves, "Am I living according to my own values, or am I constantly adjusting myself to satisfy others?" Questions like this open the door to greater authenticity. Another common pattern people discover during self-reflection is the tendency to judge themselves harshly. Many individuals carry inner voices that constantly criticize their mistakes or highlight their shortcomings. These voices often originate from past experiences, social expectations, or comparisons with others. When these judgments remain unexamined, they can create feelings of inadequacy or self-doubt. But when a person observes these thoughts with awareness, they begin to see that they are not permanent truths. They are simply mental habits that developed over time. Recognizing this allows compassion toward oneself to grow. Self-compassion is an important part of inner freedom. Instead of treating mistakes as proof of failure, a compassionate mind sees them as opportunities for learning. Instead of demanding perfection, it encourages growth through patience and understanding. As this compassion develops, the relationship a person has with themselves becomes healthier and more supportive. Another important discovery that occurs when people stop running from themselves is the realization that emotions are not enemies. Many people fear emotions such as sadness, anger, or vulnerability because they believe these feelings make them weak. As a result, they try to suppress or ignore them. But emotions carry important messages about our experiences and needs. Sadness may reveal that something meaningful has been lost. Anger may highlight a boundary that needs protection. Fear may indicate uncertainty about the future. When a person learns to observe emotions without immediately reacting or suppressing them, they gain valuable insight into their inner world. This process gradually reduces the fear of emotional experiences. Instead of being overwhelmed by feelings, the person becomes capable of acknowledging them calmly. Over time, emotional resilience grows. Facing oneself honestly also reveals the deeper values that guide a meaningful life. Many people spend years pursuing goals that were influenced by social expectations rather than personal truth. When they pause to examine their motivations, they sometimes realize that certain ambitions no longer align with their authentic interests. This awareness allows them to redirect their energy toward pursuits that genuinely inspire them. Authenticity is a powerful source of freedom. When a person stops trying to conform to every external expectation, they begin living according to their own understanding of what matters. Decisions become clearer because they are guided by inner values rather than fear of judgment. Another important aspect of self-understanding is the recognition that identity itself is flexible. People often define themselves by labels such as their profession, achievements, or past experiences. While these aspects may describe certain parts of life, they do not fully define who someone is. The mind is constantly evolving. Beliefs change, perspectives shift, and new insights emerge over time. Recognizing this fluid nature of identity allows a person to grow beyond the limitations of their past. Mistakes no longer feel permanent. Old fears no longer define the future. The person becomes free to explore new possibilities and directions. This freedom creates a deep sense of empowerment. Instead of feeling controlled by unconscious habits, the person becomes an active participant in shaping their life. Awareness allows them to pause before reacting, reflect before deciding, and choose responses that align with their deeper values. Meditation and mindfulness practices often support this process by creating quiet spaces where the mind can observe itself clearly. During these moments of stillness, thoughts slow down and deeper insights can appear. Through regular reflection, the mind gradually becomes less cluttered with unnecessary worries and distractions. Clarity increases, and the person begins to feel more grounded in the present moment. As this journey continues, something remarkable begins to happen. The person realizes that the peace they were searching for in external achievements or distractions has always been connected to understanding their own mind. Instead of constantly running from discomfort, they learn to meet it with awareness. Instead of hiding from uncertainty, they approach it with curiosity. Instead of fearing their own thoughts, they observe them with patience. This transformation does not happen all at once. It unfolds gradually through moments of honesty, reflection, and compassion. But with each step, the person moves closer to genuine freedom. Not the freedom of escaping life's challenges, but the freedom of understanding themselves deeply enough that those challenges no longer control their inner peace. And when a person stops running from themselves and begins walking the path of self-understanding, they discover that the place they were trying to escape was also the place where their greatest wisdom was waiting to be found. 22. Understand that compassion is the highest form of strength. Many people grow up believing that strength means being tough, unshaken, and emotionally distant. They are often taught that showing vulnerability or kindness too openly may make them appear weak. Because of this belief, some individuals develop a habit of protecting themselves behind emotional walls. They hide their feelings, avoid showing empathy, and sometimes respond to challenges with harshness rather than understanding. But the deeper wisdom of Gautama Buddha reveals a very different truth about strength. According to Buddhist teachings, the highest form of strength is not the ability to dominate others or suppress emotions. True strength lies in compassion, the ability to understand suffering, respond with kindness, and remain open-hearted even in a difficult world. Compassion is often misunderstood. Some people believe compassion means feeling sorry for others or ignoring wrongdoing. In reality, compassion is far more powerful than simple sympathy. It is the ability to recognize the struggles of others while maintaining the wisdom to respond with patience, clarity, and care. Human beings are deeply interconnected. Every person carries invisible burdens that others may never fully see. Someone who appears confident may be quietly struggling with insecurity. Someone who seems angry may actually be dealing with deep emotional pain. Someone who behaves impatiently may be overwhelmed by pressures that others cannot see. When people view behavior only at the surface level, it is easy to react with judgment. But compassion encourages a deeper understanding. The Buddha often emphasized that all beings experience suffering in different forms. People face fear, uncertainty, loss, disappointment, and countless other challenges throughout their lives. Recognizing this shared human experience naturally softens the way we respond to others. Instead of immediately reacting with anger or criticism, a compassionate mind pauses to consider the deeper causes behind a person's actions. This shift in perspective can transform relationships. For example, imagine someone speaking harshly during a stressful moment. A reactive mind may respond with equal anger, creating conflict and tension. But a compassionate mind recognizes that the person may be struggling internally. Instead of escalating the situation, it may respond calmly or choose patience. This response does not mean allowing harmful behavior to continue unchecked. Compassion does not remove boundaries or accountability. Instead, it approaches difficult situations with wisdom rather than hostility. In this way, compassion becomes a stabilizing force in human interactions. Another powerful aspect of compassion is the way it transforms the mind of the person who practices it. When someone repeatedly responds to life with anger or resentment, those emotions gradually shape their inner world. The mind becomes tense and reactive, constantly searching for problems or enemies. But when a person cultivates compassion, their inner state changes. Compassion encourages understanding instead of judgment. It promotes patience instead of impulsive reaction. Over time, these qualities create a sense of emotional balance that protects the mind from unnecessary stress. Many people assume that compassion only benefits the person receiving kindness. But in reality, compassion deeply benefits the person who practices it as well. When the mind learns to approach others with empathy, it becomes less burdened by resentment or hostility. Relationships become less stressful because conflicts are approached with understanding rather than aggression. Compassion also strengthens courage. It takes courage to remain kind in situations where anger would be easier. It takes courage to listen patiently when emotions are high. It takes courage to respond with calmness when others behave unfairly. This courage is often misunderstood because it does not appear dramatic or aggressive. But the ability to remain compassionate during difficult moments requires deep emotional strength. The Buddha often compared compassion to a powerful light that dispels darkness. Just as a single candle can illuminate a dark room, a single compassionate action can change the atmosphere of a situation. Consider how a simple act of kindness can transform someone's day. A thoughtful word, a moment of genuine listening, or a gesture of support can remind another person that they are not alone in their struggles. These small acts may seem insignificant, but their effects can extend far beyond the moment they occur. Compassion also creates a ripple effect. When someone experiences kindness, they are more likely to pass that kindness on to others. In this way, compassion spreads through communities, quietly improving the emotional environment of many lives. Another important aspect of compassion is extending it toward oneself. Many individuals are extremely critical of their own mistakes. They may replay past failures repeatedly, judging themselves harshly for things they cannot change. This inner criticism often creates anxiety, self-doubt, and discouragement. Self-compassion offers a healthier alternative. Instead of condemning oneself for mistakes, self-compassion acknowledges that imperfection is part of being human. Every person experiences moments of failure, confusion, or regret. These experiences are not signs of weakness, but opportunities for learning. When someone treats themselves with compassion, they become more resilient. Instead of feeling crushed by mistakes, they learn from them and move forward with greater wisdom. This balance between compassion for oneself and compassion for others creates emotional harmony. Another benefit of compassion is the sense of purpose it brings to life. Many people search for meaning through achievements or recognition. While accomplishments can certainly be rewarding, they often provide only temporary satisfaction. Compassion, however, connects a person to something deeper, the well-being of others. Helping someone who is struggling, offering encouragement during difficult times, or simply listening attentively to another person's concerns can create a sense of fulfillment that external success rarely provides. This fulfillment arises because compassion aligns the mind with its natural capacity for empathy and connection. Human beings are not isolated individuals. We are part of a larger web of relationships and shared experiences. Compassion reminds us of this connection. The practice of compassion also reduces unnecessary division between people. Many conflicts arise from rigid thinking that separates individuals into opposing groups or labels them as enemies. Compassion softens these divisions by encouraging understanding. When people take the time to understand one another's perspectives, they often discover that their differences are not as extreme as they first appeared. This does not mean that disagreements disappear entirely. Differences in opinion are natural and often valuable, but compassion allows these differences to be explored respectfully rather than turning them into hostility. Meditation practices in Buddhism often include exercises specifically designed to cultivate compassion. One such practice involves silently wishing well-being for oneself and others. This simple mental exercise gradually strengthens the mind's capacity for empathy. Over time, the practice of compassion becomes more natural. The mind begins to respond with kindness automatically rather than with judgment. Ultimately, compassion reveals a deeper truth about strength. True strength does not come from dominating others or proving superiority. It comes from the ability to remain kind in a world where kindness is sometimes difficult. It comes from the courage to understand others even when misunderstandings arise. When compassion becomes part of a person's character, their presence alone can bring calmness to difficult situations. They become a source of stability in relationships, a voice of understanding during conflict, and a reminder that kindness still exists in the world. And in this way, compassion becomes far more than a moral ideal. It becomes a powerful force that transforms both the person who practices it and the world around them. Now, 23. Write more long. Write on 16000 character. Make sure the character should be on 16000 character. 23. Discover that contentment is the key to a truly rich life. Many people spend their lives chasing the idea of more money, more achievements, more recognition, more possessions, and more success. Society often encourages this endless pursuit, suggesting that happiness will appear once a person accumulates enough of these things. Because of this belief, countless individuals spend years striving for a future moment when they believe life will finally feel complete. Yet when that moment arrives, many discover something surprising. The satisfaction they expected often fades quickly, and the mind begins searching for something else. A new goal appears, a new desire forms, and the cycle continues. This endless pursuit can make life feel like a race that never truly ends. The wisdom of Gautama Buddha teaches that this restless search for more is one of the main reasons people experience dissatisfaction. The mind constantly imagines that happiness lies somewhere ahead, just beyond the next achievement or possession. But when happiness depends entirely on external conditions, it remains fragile and temporary. Contentment offers a different path. Contentment does not mean abandoning ambition or refusing to grow. It does not require rejecting opportunities or ignoring goals. Instead, contentment means learning how to appreciate what already exists in the present moment, while continuing to grow with wisdom. Many people misunderstand contentment because they believe it means settling for less. In reality, contentment is about recognizing the value of what is already present in life. It is about seeing that happiness does not always require constant expansion or accumulation. When the mind practices contentment, life begins to feel more peaceful. Instead of constantly measuring success by comparison with others, a person begins to appreciate their own journey. They recognize that each life unfolds in a unique way, shaped by different experiences, challenges, and opportunities. Comparison often destroys contentment. When people constantly compare themselves with others, they create endless dissatisfaction. No matter how much someone achieves, there will always be someone who appears more successful, more wealthy, or more accomplished. If happiness depends on surpassing everyone else, the mind will never find rest. Contentment frees a person from this exhausting competition. Instead of asking, "Do I have more than others?" the mind begins asking a different question. Am I living in alignment with what truly matters to me? This shift in perspective brings clarity. Many individuals discover that the things they once believed were essential for happiness were actually influenced by social pressure rather than genuine personal values. When they pause and reflect, they may realize that meaningful relationships, inner peace, and personal growth are far more valuable than endless material accumulation. Contentment also encourages simplicity. Modern life often fills people's schedules and environments with constant noise and complexity. Endless information, responsibilities, and distractions compete for attention. While technology and opportunities can be beneficial, they can also overwhelm the mind. A content mind learns to simplify. Instead of chasing every possible opportunity, it chooses what truly aligns with personal values. Instead of filling every moment with activity, it allows space for reflection and rest. Instead of accumulating unnecessary possessions, it values experiences and relationships. This simplicity creates a sense of freedom. When a person no longer feels the need to constantly acquire more, they begin to feel lighter. Life becomes less about maintaining appearances and more about experiencing genuine fulfillment. Contentment also deepens appreciation. When the mind stops chasing endless desires, it becomes easier to notice the beauty that already exists in everyday life. A quiet morning, a meaningful conversation, or a peaceful walk can become sources of joy when the mind is present enough to appreciate them. Without contentment, these moments are often overlooked because the mind is always looking ahead. Another powerful aspect of contentment is the emotional stability it provides. When happiness depends entirely on external success, life becomes unpredictable. A person may feel confident and joyful during moments of achievement, but quickly become discouraged when challenges appear. Contentment creates balance. Instead of rising and falling with every change in circumstance, a content mind remains steady. Success can be enjoyed without becoming attached to it, and difficulties can be faced without losing hope. This balance is one of the foundations of inner peace. The Buddha often emphasized that desire itself is not the problem. The problem arises when desire becomes attachment. When a person believes they cannot be happy without obtaining something specific, their mind becomes trapped in constant dissatisfaction. Contentment breaks this pattern by showing that happiness can exist even while desires are still present. A person may still pursue goals and work toward improvement, but their sense of worth no longer depends entirely on those outcomes. This mindset transforms the experience of effort. Instead of feeling desperate for results, the person can enjoy the process of growth. They work with dedication, but remain calm about the outcome. Contentment also strengthens relationships. When people constantly chase more, they may unintentionally neglect the relationships that bring genuine meaning to life. Work, ambition, and competition can sometimes push personal connections into the background. But a content mind recognizes the value of time shared with others. Listening carefully, offering support, and appreciating the presence of loved ones become natural priorities. Relationships deepen because attention is no longer divided by endless distraction. Another important lesson contentment teaches is gratitude. Gratitude and contentment naturally support one another. When a person recognizes the blessings that already exist in their life, contentment grows. When contentment grows, gratitude becomes easier to feel. This cycle creates a positive mental environment. Instead of focusing on what is missing, the mind becomes more aware of what is present. This awareness reduces feelings of envy, frustration, and dissatisfaction. Over time, the person begins to feel richer in a way that does not depend on material wealth. Contentment also helps people face uncertainty. Life constantly changes, plans shift, circumstances evolve, and unexpected challenges appear. A person who relies entirely on external success may feel lost when these changes occur, but a content mind remains flexible. Because happiness does not depend solely on specific outcomes, the person can adapt more easily to new situations. They trust their ability to navigate life rather than fearing every change. Ultimately, contentment reveals a powerful truth. A rich life is not defined only by what a person possesses. It is defined by the depth of peace, appreciation, and understanding they experience within themselves. When someone learns to appreciate the present moment, value meaningful relationships, and pursue growth without becoming consumed by endless desire, their life naturally becomes richer. Contentment transforms ordinary days into meaningful experiences. Instead of constantly waiting for happiness to appear in the future, the person begins to recognize that happiness has quietly been available all along. And when this realization truly settles in the mind, life stops feeling like an endless race toward more. Instead, it becomes a journey of appreciating what already exists while continuing to grow with wisdom and awareness. 24. Understand that awareness is the light that reveals life. Clearly, many people move through life as if they are walking in dim light. They react to situations automatically, follow habits they rarely question, and allow emotions to guide their actions without fully understanding where those emotions come from. Because of this, life can often feel confusing. People may repeat the same mistakes, experience the same frustrations, and struggle to understand why certain problems continue to appear in their lives. The teachings of Gautama Buddha describe awareness as a kind of inner light. When awareness is present, the mind begins to see things clearly. Thoughts, emotions, and reactions that once felt overwhelming become easier to understand. Instead of being carried away by every impulse, a person learns to observe their experiences with calm attention. Awareness may seem like a simple idea, but it has profound effects on how a person experiences life. Most people spend a large portion of their day operating on what could be called automatic mode. They wake up, follow routines, respond to situations, and move through the day without fully noticing what is happening inside their mind. Thoughts appear and disappear rapidly, emotions rise and fall, and reactions occur almost instantly. When awareness is absent, the mind often behaves like a river, flowing without direction. Thoughts about the past may bring regret. Thoughts about the future may create anxiety. Emotional reactions can quickly turn small situations into large problems. But when awareness enters the mind, this pattern begins to change. Awareness allows a person to notice what is happening before reacting. Instead of immediately responding to every thought or emotion, the person pauses and observes. This pause may last only a few seconds, but within that moment lies the possibility of wisdom. For example, imagine someone receiving criticism during a conversation. Without awareness, the mind may immediately react with anger or defensiveness. The conversation may quickly turn into conflict because both people are reacting emotionally. With awareness, however, the reaction unfolds differently. The person notices the feeling of irritation arising, but chooses to observe it rather than immediately act upon it. This moment of observation allows the mind to ask a more thoughtful question. Is there something useful in this criticism, or is this simply an emotional reaction from the other person? By pausing and reflecting, the person avoids unnecessary conflict and responds more calmly. This ability to observe before reacting is one of the greatest benefits of awareness. Another powerful aspect of awareness is the clarity it brings to thoughts. Many people believe every thought that appears in their mind. If the mind says, "This situation is terrible," they immediately feel distressed. If the mind says, "Everyone is judging me," they may feel anxious or insecure. But awareness reveals that thoughts are not always reliable reflections of reality. They are simply mental events that arise and pass away. When a person observes their thoughts carefully, they often discover that many thoughts are exaggerated or unnecessary. Worries about the future may never actually happen. Negative assumptions about others may turn out to be inaccurate. This realization weakens the power that thoughts once held. Instead of feeling controlled by every idea that appears in the mind, the person learns to treat thoughts with curiosity rather than blind belief. Awareness also helps a person understand their emotional patterns. Emotions are natural parts of human experience, but when they remain unexamined, they can create confusion. A person may feel sudden anger or sadness without fully understanding why those emotions appeared. With awareness, emotional patterns become easier to recognize. For instance, someone might notice that their frustration often arises when they feel ignored or unappreciated. Another person might realize that their anxiety appears whenever they imagine negative outcomes for the future. Once these patterns become visible, they can be addressed with greater understanding. Instead of reacting automatically, the person begins exploring the deeper causes behind their emotions. This exploration leads to greater emotional intelligence and self-awareness. Awareness also improves the quality of relationships. When people interact without awareness, misunderstandings easily arise. Words may be spoken impulsively, and assumptions may replace careful listening. Conversations may become arguments because both sides are reacting defensively rather than understanding each other. But when awareness is present, communication becomes more thoughtful. A person listens more carefully, notices emotional reactions, and chooses words with greater intention. This approach reduces unnecessary conflict and encourages mutual understanding. Relationships often become stronger when awareness guides interactions. Another important benefit of awareness is the way it transforms everyday experiences. Without awareness, many moments of life pass unnoticed. People may rush through meals without tasting them fully, walk through nature without observing its beauty, or spend time with loved ones while distracted by other concerns. But when awareness is practiced, these ordinary experiences become richer. A simple walk becomes an opportunity to notice the movement of the body and the sounds of the environment. A conversation becomes a chance to connect deeply with another person. Even moments of quiet breathing become reminders of being alive. In this way, awareness turns ordinary life into a meaningful experience. Meditation practices often help cultivate this awareness. During meditation, a person focuses attention on the breath or other aspects of the present moment. Thoughts still appear, but instead of chasing them, the person gently returns attention to the breath. Over time, this practice strengthens the mind's ability to remain present. Outside of meditation, awareness gradually becomes part of daily life. The person becomes more attentive to their thoughts, emotions, and surroundings. This continuous awareness creates a sense of stability. Life's challenges still occur, but they no longer feel as overwhelming. Instead of reacting impulsively, the person approaches situations with clarity and patience. Awareness also encourages personal growth. When people observe their actions honestly, they begin noticing habits that may be limiting their potential. They may recognize patterns of procrastination, negativity, or self-doubt that previously went unnoticed. This recognition allows change to begin. Instead of repeating the same behaviors unconsciously, the person can gradually replace them with healthier patterns. Another important lesson awareness teaches is humility. The more a person observes their mind, the more they realize how complex human experience truly is. They begin to see how easily misunderstandings can occur and how often assumptions influence perception. This realization encourages patience and openness toward others. Instead of judging quickly, the person becomes curious about different perspectives. This curiosity fosters empathy and reduces unnecessary conflict. Ultimately, awareness transforms the way a person relates to life. Instead of feeling pushed and pulled by every situation, the person becomes an observer who can respond thoughtfully. The mind becomes calmer because it no longer reacts automatically to every passing thought or emotion. And as awareness deepens, life begins to feel clearer. Problems that once seemed overwhelming become manageable. Decisions that once felt confusing become easier to navigate. Relationships that once felt tense become opportunities for understanding. In this way, awareness acts like a light that illuminates the path of life. It reveals the patterns of the mind, the beauty of the present moment, and the wisdom hidden within everyday experiences. And when that light grows stronger, life no longer feels like something happening randomly. Instead, it becomes a journey that can be understood, appreciated, and lived with clarity and purpose. 25. Realize that the present moment is the only place life truly exists. Many people spend a large portion of their lives thinking about time in ways that quietly take them away from the moment they are actually living. Their minds wander into memories of the past or into imagined possibilities of the future. They replay conversations that already happened, regret choices that cannot be changed, or worry about events that may never even occur. While the mind is traveling through these thoughts, the present moment continues to pass quietly by. The teachings of Gautama Buddha emphasize a powerful truth that many people overlook. The present moment is the only place where life truly exists. The past is a memory, and the future is an idea that has not yet arrived. Only the present moment is real and directly experienced. Understanding this idea deeply can transform the way a person lives. When someone becomes trapped in thoughts about the past, they often carry emotional weight that belongs to events that are already finished. Regret, guilt, and resentment can remain active in the mind long after the original situation has ended. These emotions can influence how the person experiences the present, even though the events themselves are no longer happening. Similarly, constant focus on the future can create anxiety. The mind imagines scenarios that might happen and begins reacting to them as if they were already real. Worries about failure, uncertainty, or unexpected outcomes can fill the mind with tension. Both of these mental habits, clinging to the past and fearing the future, pull attention away from the present moment. But the present moment is where life unfolds. Every experience you have ever had happened in a present moment. Every decision you make occurs in the present moment. Every connection you form with another person takes place in the present moment. When awareness returns to this moment, life becomes clearer. Many people assume that living in the present means ignoring the past or refusing to plan for the future. In reality, mindfulness does not require abandoning these aspects of life. Memories can still offer valuable lessons, and planning can still guide responsible decisions. The key difference is that these activities are approached with awareness rather than becoming sources of constant distraction. A mindful person may reflect on the past to learn from experience, but they do not remain emotionally trapped there. They may plan for the future, but they do not allow imagined outcomes to dominate their thoughts. Instead, they return their attention to the present moment again and again. One of the reasons the present moment feels difficult to notice is because the mind often seeks stimulation. It constantly searches for something exciting, dramatic, or new. When the present moment appears ordinary, the mind quickly becomes restless and begins looking elsewhere. But when awareness grows stronger, the ordinary begins to reveal its depth. A simple breath becomes a reminder of being alive. The sound of rain, the warmth of sunlight, or the rhythm of footsteps becomes noticeable in ways that were previously overlooked. Conversations become more meaningful because attention is fully present instead of divided by distraction. The Buddha often described mindfulness as a form of awakening. It is the act of becoming fully aware of what is happening right now without immediately judging or resisting it. This awareness creates space within the mind. Instead of reacting impulsively to every thought or emotion, a person learns to observe them calmly. Thoughts may still appear, but they no longer dominate attention. Emotions may still arise, but they are experienced with understanding rather than confusion. Over time, this practice creates a sense of inner stability. Life's challenges still appear, but they are approached with clarity rather than panic. Pleasant moments are appreciated without the fear that they must last forever. Difficult moments are experienced with patience, knowing that they will eventually change. Another important aspect of living in the present moment is the way it strengthens relationships. When people are distracted by their thoughts, they often listen to others only partially. They may be thinking about what to say next, worrying about unrelated problems, or mentally planning future tasks. As a result, conversations lose depth and genuine connection. But when someone listens with full presence, the experience changes. The other person feels truly heard. Communication becomes clearer, and misunderstandings decrease. Relationships grow stronger because attention is no longer divided. Presence also enhances creativity and problem-solving. When the mind is constantly occupied with past regrets or future worries, it has little space for new ideas. But when attention settles into the present moment, clarity emerges. The mind becomes more capable of observing situations objectively and discovering solutions that were previously hidden beneath layers of distraction. Living in the present moment also reduces unnecessary stress. Many worries are created by imagining situations that have not yet happened. By returning attention to what is actually occurring right now, The mind often realizes that the present moment is far less threatening than the imagined future. This realization brings calmness. Instead of fighting countless imaginary problems, the person focuses on the reality of the moment they are experiencing. Another benefit of presence is the appreciation it brings to everyday life. Without awareness, days may feel repetitive and forgettable. Activities blend together, and time seems to pass quickly without leaving strong memories behind. But when awareness is present, even simple moments become vivid. A meal shared with someone becomes meaningful because attention is focused on the experience. A quiet evening becomes restful because the mind is not constantly searching for the next distraction. Over time, the practice of presence transforms how life feels. Instead of rushing from one moment to another, the person begins to experience life as a series of meaningful experiences unfolding one step at a time. Meditation is often used to strengthen this awareness. During meditation, a person gently focuses attention on the breath or another simple aspect of the present moment. When the mind wanders, attention is patiently brought back again. This practice gradually trains the mind to remain present for longer periods. Outside of meditation, mindfulness can be practiced in many ordinary situations. Walking, eating, listening, or even performing routine tasks can become opportunities to notice the present moment. As this habit grows, awareness begins to accompany daily life naturally. The person becomes less controlled by automatic thoughts and more capable of responding consciously to situations. Ultimately, realizing the value of the present moment changes the entire relationship a person has with time. Instead of feeling that life is constantly slipping away, they begin to experience each moment more fully. Time no longer feels like something that disappears unnoticed. Instead, it becomes a continuous flow of experiences that can be appreciated one moment at a time. When this understanding becomes part of everyday life, a person discovers that the richness of life was never hidden in some distant future. It has always been quietly waiting within the present moment. Life moves more quietly than most people realize. Days turn into weeks, weeks turn into years, and before long, entire chapters of life have passed. Many people only recognize this when they look back and realize how much of their time was spent worrying, rushing, comparing, or waiting for the right moment to finally begin living. But the wisdom of Gautama Buddha reminds us of a simple and powerful truth. The moment you are living right now is the only moment that truly belongs to you. You cannot give your life more time, but you can give your time more life. Every lesson in this journey points toward the same realization. Life becomes meaningful not when everything is perfect, but when the mind becomes aware. When you stop postponing your life, when you stop chasing endless approval, when you learn to let go of what drains your energy, and when you begin appreciating the present moment, something inside you begins to change. Your mind becomes lighter, your attention becomes clearer, your life begins to feel more real. Instead of rushing through days without noticing them, you begin to experience each moment more deeply. Conversations become more meaningful. Relationships become more genuine. Even simple moments of quiet reflection begin to feel valuable. You realize that happiness was never hiding somewhere far in the future. It was always waiting inside your ability to be present, grateful, and aware. The truth is that time will continue to move forward whether we notice it or not. The question is not how long life will last. The real question is how consciously we will live the moments we are given. When you live with awareness, patience, compassion, and gratitude, time no longer feels like something that is slipping away from you. Instead, it becomes a path of experience, a journey where every moment carries meaning. So do not wait for life to become perfect before you allow yourself to live fully. Do not postpone your peace for a future that has not yet arrived. Be present. Be aware. Be grateful for the moment you are living right now, because, in the end, a meaningful life is not created by having more time. It is created by truly living the time you already have.